guys. I got the time wrong. I told you guys 2:30. It was 1:30. I hope you guys had your notifications turned on, or either that or realized that I had the time wrong. Whoa. Hang on. I've got my channel not muted. Sorry. I'm trying to do a lot at once. Nancy, hey. Hey, Carla. Where's Judy? Judy, where are you? I know you're here. Just because it's probably here somewhere too. He's always here somewhere. Okay. I set up the Facebook group. It is Debbie F. Cook, True Crime and Trials. I think it's right now. It should ask you questions. And then I should get, I guess, a notification to, hey, Jelly Bean, to approve them. There's my Judy. If I did it right. There's no guarantee that I did it right. And I didn't finish my lunch, so I'm going to turn off my camera because you don't want to watch me eat, and the dogs are probably going to start barking. They're staring at me right now. If they start barking, I will mute my microphone. Oh, goodness. I have a lot of windows open, and I don't know. Okay. Okay. I'm going to have to shut some windows down. I guess I'll have to finish working on the Facebook page later. Take my YouTube page down. Dang it. StreamYard? Can you not do two things at once, StreamYard? Seriously.
So I'm gonna have these with you. So
who are you, dude? StreamYard, are you ready now? Can we do this thing?
Ms. Irving, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. People call Gary Ross to the stand, please.
Come on, StreamYard.
Sir, if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please have a seat. And once you're settled in, I'll have you tell us your full name and spell the last, please.
Full name is John Gary Gross. Last name is spelled G as in George, R-U-S-S like in Sam.
Thank you. Ms.
Thank you, Your
Ivey?
Honor. Mr. Ross, what is your current occupation?
A little closer. Thank you.
What is your current occupation?
Retired Deputy Sheriff,
And what did you do prior to retirement?
Deputy Sheriff, Van Buren County.
And how many years?
5 years.
5 years. And what did you do prior to that?
I have a total of 22 years.
Oh.
You gotta sit up like that or move the microphone closer so the jury can hear you.
Is that better?
Just
Sorry.
So how many years total were you with the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department?
22 years.
And on January 7th of 2007, were you acting in your duties as Van Buren County Sheriff?
Yes.
Deputy, sorry. And were you called out to respond to a house fire on County Road 215?
Yes.
And do you recall approximately what time that was?
Can I look at my report?
Would it help refresh your memory to look at
It
your
would.
report? If you could just look at it and then put it down.
Approximately 1,530.
You could just look at the report and set it down and testify from after being refreshed. Okay, thank you.
1,535, 33 minutes. 3:30.
About 3:30 in the afternoon?
Correct.
And were you the first one to arrive or was somebody else already there?
I was the second deputy on scene. Deputy Tony Evans was first.
And at that time, did your car have the ability to take some video as you were going into the scene?
Yes, anytime you activate and you're running on code and you turn your system on, it automatically starts the camera.
And in 2007, were those, what type of storage device did that hold that tape?
It was mounted at the ceiling towards the windshield in front of the car, and it was in a box, a metal box.
Was it VCR? Was it cassette tape? Was it flash drives?
I'm not sure. There was no VCR. It had to be recorded digitally.
Okay. In 2007?
Yes.
Okay. And I think before you came up today, or before you got on the stand, I showed you some shots, some still shots, some photos. Were those taken from your video camera from your car on your approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, I believe that we have a stipulation to admit People's Exhibit number 2. It is items 1 through 10. So 2-1 all the way through 2-10, they are photos.
You stipulate that.
It's 2-1 through 2-10?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll receive those.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
You may.
So I'm going to have these with you so that you can kind of describe these to the jury as we go through them.
These are shots from my car camera as I approached the residents coming up the driveway, which shows obviously the residents engulfed in fire.
Oh, hang on just a moment. I think they got to get the big screen up for us. Okay, so I'm going to start out with then 1-1. What are we looking at here?
Yes.
And you can see by the bottom corner, if you look for the one with the 1 at the bottom.
Yes.
What is this photo depicting?
I'm sorry.
What is this photo depicting?
It's depicting me coming up the driveway to the house that I was dispatched to. It's obviously on fire.
I'm going to go now to the next one, 2-2. Same, just from a different angle.
Yes, I'm a little closer to the residence, and it shows Tony Evans' car to the right, the deputy's car to the right.
I'm going to advance then to 2-3. Anything different in this photo?
Not much different other than the fire is spreading relatively fast. I mean, you only
Strike with wonderful foundation, and they talk about how fast the fire is. He's no expert.
I think he's just making observations from the picture, Your Honor.
You can't. These are stills, they're not
As
even
a
video.
layperson opinion, I'll allow it as a layperson.
I'm going to go to now 2-4. What are we looking at here?
Again, a closer shot of the house as I approach with Deputy Evans' car to the right.
2-5. Anything different here?
The only difference here is obviously I'm closer to the residence and the fire is continuing to burn, and Deputy Evans is looking for equipment in the trunk of his vehicle.
Is it fair to say that these photos are a progression as you're actually going down the driveway?
Yes.
I'm going to go then to 2-6.
Again, a closer view of the residence as I'm pretty close to going to the location and stopping.
2-7.
Again, a closer view that shows Deputy Evans is still looking for equipment in the trunk of his vehicle.
2-8.
I'm very close to pulling in next to Deputy Evans' vehicle, and obviously you can still see the fire in the residence.
And I just want to point out the heading at the top of the picture, is that the date and time?
Correct. January 7th, 2007 at 1533 minutes.
I'm going to go then to the next one. This one would be 2-9.
Yep, this is where I'm fairly close to Deputy Evans' car because it doesn't show in the camera lens. And obviously, again, shows the residence engulfed in flame.
And then now finally 2-10, which then the time is listed as 3,400 hours. Is that correct? I'm sorry, 1534.
Correct. And this is where I'm pulling off the driveway to park.
So these photos are all within just several minutes.
Correct.
Once you arrived, what action did you take?
Just before I got there, Deputy Evans asked me to get a resuscitator mask for my equipment and bring it up to his location. And then he directed me to go with him to the one side of the house. I believe it was the north side, I'm not sure. And I didn't know why at that point in time.
So did you grab the mask?
I did.
And did you proceed then to the north side of the home?
Correct.
What did you see when you got on the north side of the home?
Saw a person laying on the ground that was obviously injured, obviously burned. And he was at that point breathing on his own. And we tried to assist as much as possibly could before the ambulance and the EMT people got there.
Did you make any decisions about moving him at that point?
Not originally. We started trying resuscitation and CPR. We couldn't find a carotid pulse, but he was still kind of gasping for air. But that had ceased pretty much. So we tried the CPR and the ventilating mask to try to stabilize him as much as we could.
At what point did you decide to move him?
I'm not sure who it was because we were busy with the burned subject. Somebody said that we need to move him farther away from the house because of the fuel tank that was close to the residence, and they were afraid there may be an explosion.
And do you recall how you moved him?
Again, I don't know who brought the particular item, but it appeared to be something similar to a hard plastic sled type container that maybe some person would use, like a child to go on a sled, or possibly a person could use it to put wood in it to tow across the snow for it was hard plastic. It had probably 3, maybe 4-inch sides on it. It was not long enough or big enough to put his entire body in it.
So did you assist in moving?
I did.
And did you assist in picking him up?
No, we rolled him on his side.
And got him, then were you able to get him into the sled?
We did.
And where did you move him to?
We moved him away from the house. I'm going to guess, as far as I remember, probably 50, 75 yards.
Was that towards the back of the house or the front of the house?
It was towards the back of the house.
You talked about using then the equipment, I believe you said the resuscitator mask. Was there anything else that was used to try to render aid?
We did try to use the AED defibrillator because we couldn't get a pulse. However, the burns were so severe that we weren't able to use the patches to contact his chest because they kept sliding off because of the fluid weeping out of his body.
So when you say it's the defibrillator, is that the machine that has the pads that stick on the chest?
Correct.
And those were the pads that would not then adhere to his body due to the burns?
Correct.
Did you continue to render aid then after you moved him?
On the 48 Hours episode, she said she was mad at them because they didn't use the defibrillator on him because they said the pads wouldn't stick. And she was mad about that. Lady? Oh my God.
We did.
Was he still alive at that time?
Well, we weren't certain. We were doing our best to try to stabilize him as much as we could.
Did you see the defendant, Linda Stermer, there at that time?
Did I see? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Did you see Linda Stermer there?
Yes.
Did you talk to her?
Belle has smelled the cookie under the stove and now she's trying to get it.
Very little at the onset because we were busy trying to help the burn subject.
When you say the burns were severe, like what was your observation of his injuries?
Well, I don't know how graphic you want me to get, but I can tell you that his ears were pretty much burned off. He had no eyelids. His lips were pretty well burned off. He had no hair on his body. The skin on his fingers and arms were deteriorating and sliding around. That's why we couldn't pull him out of the way. We had to put him in some type of carrier to get him away.
Do you recall how long it was that you continued to try to resuscitate Todd before then an emergency and fire got there? So you said you spoke very little to Linda Stermer in the onset. Do you recall what you had said in the beginning of the onset to her?
We had, while we were working on the victim, I asked her if there was anybody else in the house, along with Deputy Evans asking her. We had asked a couple of times. She said there was nobody else in the house other than a couple cats.
Was there a time after EMS and fire arrived that you were able to then have a longer discussion with Linda?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately how much later that was, or?
I don't recall exactly how long between EMS and ambulance personnel got there. It was chilly. it was fairly cold, so we were concerned with her being hypothermic, so we put her in a pickup truck that was there. And I don't know whose pickup truck it was, but it was the closest vehicle in a safety situation. So I'm gonna put her in there to calm her down and try to keep her warm. And I was sitting in there with her.
So prior to you getting into the vehicle, how would you have described her demeanor at that point?
I'm sorry,
What was her demeanor prior to getting into the vehicle?
her demeanor?
Yes.
I would say at times kind of hysterical, kind of confused, also kind of quiet at times.
Was she crying?
Whimpering maybe, on and off.
So you said you got into the vehicle with her,
Correct.
and were you able to have a longer conversation with her at that time?
I had asked her if she could tell me what happened, and started the conversation. A lot of the time she was looking at the floorboard of the truck. I had to ask her a couple times. Sometimes she'd answer a couple words, and then other times she'd just be quiet.
Did she say where she was located when she first learned of the fire?
She said she was down in the lower level of the laundry room doing laundry.
Did she say where Todd was?
She had mentioned that Todd was in the upper level in the bedroom. At that point, I think that's all she said.
Did you talk to her about if there was a fireplace in the house?
I did. I asked if there were fireplaces in the residence, and she said there was 2 fireplaces. One was upstairs in the 1 bedroom in the upper level, and the other one was in the main part of the house. I then asked her if they were gas fireplaces or wood burner fireplaces, and she said there's no gas in the house. They were both wood burning fireplaces.
Did she say what happened when she was downstairs doing laundry?
She said she heard Todd hollering and screaming, so she ran upstairs to the main level of the house that was full of smoke. She then said she couldn't get upstairs because the doorway was blocked with flames and she couldn't get by there. So then she ran outside to tell the neighbor that apparently was there to call 911.
Did she say what door she ran out of?
She said she ran out the front door.
So she said she couldn't get up the steps, but she said she ran out the front door?
She couldn't get, I'm sorry, she couldn't get upstairs to the upper level bedroom area because that was full of flames. So she ran out the front door of the main entrance of the house.
Did she tell you if she saw Todd at all?
She said she didn't know where he came from at that time, but she saw him out in the yard.
Did she say what she did when she saw him out in the yard?
She said she got into her vehicle, her truck, and tried to drive around to get him some help.
Did she say she was able to get him help or where she went?
No, she said when she got in the van to drive around, she didn't know where he went. She couldn't see him anymore. And then when she finally drove around to the other side of the house, then he was out in the yard there.
Did she say what was happening with him at that time or what she saw?
I believe she mentioned that she was concerned, obviously concerned. He was hollering and screaming. She said, I know that he was hurting. And so I got down on top of him to try to keep him from hurting.
She got on top of him to try to keep him from hurting?
Correct.
Where was she when you first arrived in relation to Todd?
As I recall, she was with Todd, and Tony and I were trying to assist as much as we could. And we had to kind of push her away so we could administer what help we were able to do. And a couple of times she would come back and put her hands over his mouth and kind of have her face in front of his face, like she was trying to help, I guess. I don't know.
So did she lay on him?
At that point, no, I think she was kneeling next to him.
But she put her hands on his mouth?
Correct.
Was she trying to administer mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, or was it just her hands?
I'm not sure. Tony and I were doing the resuscitation and the CPR. So I'm not sure what her actions were.
Other than you just seeing her put her hands over his mouth?
Correct.
Was she trying to smother him? What the heck?
When Linda was talking to you in the car, did she mention if Todd was clothed or on fire at that time when she saw him in the yard?
I believe she said that he was smoking.
Did she say anything about his clothing?
I believe she said that he had already tried to remove his clothing, rip them off, and that he was like smoking. Body was smoking. His body was smoking.
Okay, thank you.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
Did you say you're retired?
Correct.
How long have you been retired?
2013,
And how long were you with the Van Buren County Sheriff?
22 years.
Okay. Let's go over some of your testimony if we may. First of all, what did you do with the video of the vehicle?
I did nothing with the video.
You don't know what happened to it?
During that time frame, whenever we drove in after our duty, it would automatically upload into a system, into the office.
Okay. You don't know what happened to the video at all?
I have no idea.
So the fact that it's never been produced to us, you would know how that happened.
No, sir.
You showed 10 pictures. You were showing that, right? From your in-car video.
Correct.
10 pictures from 15:33 and 51 seconds, so 3:33, 51. That's the first picture, right?
Correct.
To the last picture, number 10, 15:34 and 00.
Correct.
10 pictures over 9 seconds.
Okay.
Can we agree that if you were on scene for how long?
Probably 2 hours, maybe 2.5.
And during that 2 hours, is your in-car video running?
Yes, it was.
So if we had a video covering 2 hours, we'd be able to see the progression of the fire, wouldn't we, from your vehicle?
I would assume you would.
Okay. You're not a firefighter, right?
No, sir.
You're not a fire investigator, right?
No, sir.
Okay. You wouldn't know how to calculate the speed of a fire, right?
No, sir.
All right. When you said it was a fast-moving fire, fast is a relative term, isn't it?
Based on the photo,
Fast versus slow versus a normal fire. Fair?
fair.
All right. So that's your subjective observation or opinion. It was a
Correct.
fast-moving fire compared to other fires you've seen.
I don't know.
All right,
I can't answer that question, sir, because all fires are different, so.
that's correct. All fires are different, and you don't know what promotes a faster fire versus a slower fire, correct?
I would think whatever's burning.
You don't know all the factors that are involved, correct?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, including the type of ventilation or the amount of ventilation that happens, right?
Correct.
You do need oxygen, you do know you need a lot of oxygen to feed a fire, right?
Correct.
All right. This time, this person, or this, Mr. Russ is not an expert, he's not a fire expert, we didn't admit him as an expert, so he's asking him expert testimony questions.
No.
Beyond the scope of his knowledge.
It darn right is, and he said it's a fast fire.
I'm going to allow it as cross-examination to his comment about it being a
Thank
fast
you.
fire.
And if we had the video, we'd be able to see from the time you got on the scene until the time you left, exactly how the fire was progressing. Fair?
Sure.
Now, you've testified that Linda Stermer, when you saw her, she was, as you said, hysterical, correct?
At times.
Okay. And you've testified to that in past hearings, haven't you?
I'm sorry?
You've testified to that in past hearings, have you not? In this case, you've
Yes.
testified before, right?
No, I'm sorry. I did not testify in the last hearing.
May I approach? I only have one copy, Your Honor. Thanks.
Why'd they turn the sound off?
And then on the second page, I'm going to ask if you recognize your name.
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you testify in a hearing, sir,
Did you, what now? Did you?
on January 6, 2010?
I was not called to that hearing. I have a report.
Are you testifying to our jury that on January 6, 2010, you were not testifying in a court hearing in this case?
I don't recall that at all.
Okay. You would agree with me, your memory would have been a lot better in 2010 than it is now about this fire, right?
Yes, sir.
And certainly, you would agree that your memory was a lot better when you wrote your report right around January 7 of 2010 than it is 18 years later, fair?
Yes, sir.
You are trained as a police officer to write detailed reports, aren't you?
Is that a question?
Yes, I said, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've been trained like that since the police academy, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
You want to make detailed reports and accurate reports, right?
As much as possible. Yes, sir.
Because many years later, you might not remember every detail, fair?
Correct.
So if we look at your report and you're trained to include all the important details, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You would have had a better memory of the details of this incident then than you do now, fair?
Fair.
Okay, you have your report in front of you. Yes?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I want you to tell this jury, because you testified earlier that Linda Stermer said her husband was in the bedroom. Remember that?
Correct.
Okay. There's a page on here, page 2, that says interview with Linda Stermer. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to tell our jury where in this report that you made that's accurate and detailed and when the memory was fresh, where it says Todd Stermer was in the bedroom.
The detailed report came from the senior officer, which was Tony Evans. Mine is a supplement report. It just is a supplement to what his report was.
We're reading from the same report, right?
I don't know.
this here.
Where's that? The format's a little different.
Okay, same wording.
Without really going through it, I would say it's,
I just had a chance to look at your report.
okay,
Tell me where it says that Todd Stermer was in a bedroom.
Story.
and she said that she was downstairs doing laundry in the lower level of the house, and that Tom was in the upstairs in the upper level with the
In
fireplace.
the upper level with the fireplace. And just so we're clear, this is not a colonial house. It's got a lower level basement, right? Walk out.
Okay,
You know that or don't know that?
yes, but lower level,
And it has a main floor, first floor, and then it has a second story loft. All right.
okay?
So when you're saying upper level, what you mean is the first level, the main living room area.
No, this is upper level.
Okay.
There's two fireplaces, one on the upper level where Todd was, and the other one was in the main level of the house.
All right. You believe that Todd was in the upper level in the loft area then?
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were taking this report, she told you she was doing laundry, correct?
Correct.
In the lower level basement.
I'm confused. Does the house have a basement and then one floor and another floor and a loft? Or does it have a basement and a floor and a loft? I'm confused.
Correct.
And Todd was in the main level.
No,
Well, you're saying the upper level.
said she said it was an upper level.
Okay. Do you know if there was a fireplace in the loft?
I have no idea what you told me.
She was doing laundry and she heard Todd scream, fair?
Correct.
While she's telling you this is 2 hours, within a couple hours of her husband being dead, right?
Yes,
And her having her house on fire, right?
correct,
You said she's hysterical, right?
correct,
She's also at times confused, mumbling, shaking, and not making sense. Is that right?
correct,
So she was at times incoherent because of what she'd been going through. Fair?
fair.
The one main point she told you was where she was when the fire started, when she heard her husband scream. Fair?
Yes,
And that's in the lower level,
yes,
not on the same level as him. Fair?
correct.
Can you use basement, first floor, second floor, and not level?
Now,
People in Florida are confused. We don't have basements.
in this report, you talked about the information that you observed at the scene, fair?
Oh, that's a question?
Yes, fair.
Yes,
Is that
yes.
fair? Is that right?
Okay,
All
correct.
right, I'll start trying to ask it a little different then. And you also talked about the object that you put the Mr. Todd Stermer in as you transferred him from near the fuel tank up by the house a little further away, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many serious injury accidents, fires murders have you been involved in your career?
Numerous.
Probably over 1,000 in a 20-some year career, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have a great memory of every single one of those?
No, the only memories I have are images that I like to keep locked in my head.
Okay. You have testified in great detail about the object you said was a little sled, molded plastic, 3 to 4 inch size. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That must have been an important detail for you to remember it 18 years later in the context of the whole thing with Todd Stermer.
I don't know how to answer that.
Was that an important detail for you that it had 3 to 4 inch size and it was made of molded plastic?
It would just depict what type of carrier we moved him in, that's all.
Like you say, you had a lot better memory in 2007, right?
It,
January 2007 of this incident,
correct.
when it was fresh in your mind. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us where in the report it describes this object as anything more than a little carrier.
That's all that's on here.
Okay. Before you came to trial, you prepared with the prosecutor?
Before I came to trial, I got my report to refresh my memory. It was 18 years ago.
Did you speak with the prosecutor?
Briefly,
To prepare for your testimony today?
somewhat,
And you've done that before, right? When you go to trial?
yes,
It's not your first trial.
no,
You prepare with the prosecutor so the prosecutor knows what you're going to say and you can talk about what the testimony is going to be. Fair?
to some extent.
That's what you do.
I'm sorry,
That's what you do to prepare for a trial. You're an important witness. You're an eyewitness here.
okay,
So you prepared with the prosecutor to go over your testimony and how it was going to flow, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered. I think he's asked it 3 times.
No? Thank you. Your observations regarding Linda Stermer on the scene, it must have been pretty significant for you to suggest Linda Stermer had her hand over her husband's mouth when she was there, right?
yes.
Okay. Tell us this, where the significant detail is, sir, in your report of January 7, 2007.
It's not.
If it was significant, it would have been in your report, wouldn't it?
The significance of it is that we were trying to assist the victim and she was in the way. We had to have her move out of the way.
Have you heard, you know how important writing detailed reports is, right?
Yes, sir.
Like we said, you've been trained since the academy on how to do it, right?
Yes.
Have you heard, and do police officers have a saying, if it's not written down, it didn't happen?
Yes.
And you believe in that, right?
Yes.
All right, and it's not written, certainly not written down in this report, is it?
No.
It was cold, you said, right?
Correct.
If, you know who Steve Leach is, right?
I'm sorry.
Steve Leach, you know who he is?
I know who he is.
He's the Lawrence Township Fire Department chief,
Correct.
or was. And he's going to be a witness here. If he had in his report that it was 32 degrees, you have any reason to quarrel with him?
No.
32 degrees is the freezing mark, right? You know that.
30. Correct.
So Linda Stermer was outside. Do you recall the clothes she was wearing?
I don't know the exact amount of clothes that she had on. I can tell you that there was no winter coats or any heavy type clothing that I remember.
Fair to say that from what you remember, she was not dressed for the weather.
I would say so.
And you also remember that she didn't even have shoes on. She was outside in her stocking feet.
Okay, I don't recall that.
You recall 3 to 4 inch size of plastic molded, but you don't recall any details about what she was wearing. Is that what you're telling our jury?
Objection
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't have any more questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ivory.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I approach, Your Honor? I'm going to show you what I have as your police report. And I believe you were able to read the first few sentences that Mr. Wolf asked you to read, but he didn't ask you to read the third sentence, and I think he stopped you, where it actually does talk about the bedroom area. Could you read that to the jury? After your comment, I think you read the first 2 statements.
I asked her if there was a fireplace in the upper level in the bedroom area. She said yes, there were 2 fireplaces. One was in the upper level where Todd was, and the other was in the main living floor of the house. I asked if they were gas fireplaces or wood fireplaces. She said that there is no gas in the house, but they were both fireplaces.
So you did actually put in your report that it was the bedroom area.
Yes, I did.
You just were not allowed to read that following statement. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
And could it be that you remember the details of the sled? Because that's associated with your mind in moving, Todd?
I'm sorry.
Could it be that you remember the sled because you associate it with moving Todd?
Yes,
So as you're trying to lift up a man whose skin is falling off his body, you recall that vividly?
that's the reason we used skid, sled, boat, whatever you want to call it, some instrument that we put him in, and we had to roll him on his side because we could not pick him up.
And perhaps the details of that sled would remain in your mind as you're lifting him up and trying to put him over the ledge of the sled. Is that correct?
Correct,
And you made the comment about how he didn't fit.
correct.
Did that stick out in your mind?
Well, to clarify as best I can, I'm calling it like a plastic carrier with sides. It was not like a toboggan. It wasn't a backboard. It was something that you could slide across the ground for whatever purpose. I can tell you it was not as long as his body.
And you remember that because you were trying to put his body in it. Did you ever go into the house?
No,
Did you ever even know what level pertained to the house or where the bedrooms were located or anything about the house?
no,
You were only recording her statements as she was telling them to you. Is that correct?
correct.
And I believe when Attorney Wolf was asking you if you remembered attending a hearing, you said no. Let me word it a different way. Do you remember attending the trial in 2010 and testifying at that trial?
Oh. Does the jury know that there was another trial? That seems like it would be prejudicial. How do you explain that to a jury? I think, like, the question about.
So do you remember when I asked you that question, do you remember testifying?
Ask the question again.
Do you remember testifying in 2010 at a trial instead of a hearing?
I do not.
You don't remember? You just have no memory of that trial?
I do not.
Okay. No, and that's fair. So sitting here today, 18 years later, it's not something that you remember in your mind.
Sorry. Yeah.
And again, how many times have you investigated fires, murders, crimes in your 20-year career? You said over 1,000?
I don't have an exact count, but I can tell you there's a lot.
And how many times have you actually attended hearings and different types of court proceedings for all of those that you've investigated?
Numerous.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
When you spoke to Ms. Stermer, where were you at?
Sitting in a pickup truck.
You don't know whose truck?
I have no idea.
Now, but you're trying to keep her warm, obviously, right?
Correct.
Because you were trying to avoid hypothermia, given the conditions of the weather, right?
Correct.
And the fact that she was completely underdressed for that day.
Correct.
You just said you've never been to the inside the house, right?
I'm sorry?
You've never been inside the Stermer house. You've never seen any floor plans of the Stermer house.
No.
So if I told you there is a fireplace on the main floor, the first floor, any reason to disagree with me?
No.
If I told you the only other fireplace is in the basement, any reason to disagree with me?
Sir, can we have you move the microphone? I guess we're not picking up. Thank you.
I couldn't agree with you or disagree with you. I have no knowledge of the floor plan of that house. I've never been in it. All I can tell you is what Linda told me. There were two fireplaces, one in the upper level where Todd was and one in the main level.
Okay. But she did not tell you Todd was in the bedroom, isn't that true?
Yes, she said Todd was in the upper level with the fireplace.
Where the fireplace was. You've seen bedrooms on the first floor of houses, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I told you the fireplace was in the living room and that,
I'm going to object to this point. He's already said he has no knowledge of the interior of the home. He's only recorded Linda's statements. He has no knowledge.
she insists that it's in the upper level in the bedroom.
I'll direct that you move on at this point. We've covered that topic.
Thank you. And despite testifying in a murder trial, you have no idea, you don't, even when I showed you the transcript, you don't even remember it.
No.
But after talking to the prosecutor, you do remember 3 to 4 inch side rails on some type of sled device, fair?
That's an estimate on my part.
But you recall that. Do you recall the color?
I'm sorry?
You recall the color of it?
I don't understand.
That device you're talking about, that sled-like device, do you recall the color of it?
Dark.
I don't have anything more for him. Thanks.
Anything else beside me?
We have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Jury, do you have any questions of this witness? Anyone? No questions? May he be excused from his subpoena obligations?
I would ask that he be excused, Your Honor.
Any objection, counsel?
No.
Okay, thank you, sir. You are excused. I'll take those exhibits.
Questions?
Thank you.
Point doesn't know one fire from another and let it go.
Beside of me, you may call your next witness.
Dr. Richard Mursali, Your Honor. Thank you.
Enjoy your lunch. So I've heard now that he was in the bedroom and he was in the living room on the couch. She can't keep her story straight, so I don't know where the heck he was. She keeps changing her story. And how did she go out the front door if she couldn't get up the steps because of the smoke? If you're gonna lie, at least be consistent with the lie.
Jury, just so you know, while we're waiting for the next witness, the plan is to go until 4:30 today. This way, sir. No, over here, thank you. Sir, before you have a seat, if you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Please have a seat, and once you're comfortable, I'll have you first off move that microphone. It's easier to move the microphone than the chair, but make sure you keep that close to your mouth so the jury can hear your testimony. And if you could tell us your full name and spell the last, please.
It's Richard Musali, and that's spelled Moussally.
Thank you. Ms. Ida.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Musali, on January 7th of 2007, where did you live? Like what area?
I lived at 65140 County Road 215.
And you said it's immediately adjacent to their property?
Yes,
Okay,
but quite a distance.
quite a distance. Do you have acreage?
Yeah.
Okay. And on January 7th, did you become aware of either some sort of a fire or smoke at the Stermer residence?
Yes.
How did you first, how were you first alerted to that?
My sons and I were doing chores that afternoon, and we heard a strange noise we couldn't quite identify, and we saw smoke coming from the direction of their home.
When you say you heard a strange noise, like what type of noise?
We really weren't sure. My son and I talked about it. We said, "What is that?" We just weren't sure what it was. We wondered if it could be horses. We really didn't know what the noise could possibly be. So.
And then you said you were able to then see their property?
No, we were not able to see their property. We were able to see smoke coming from about where the house would be. There was almost a third of a mile between our houses, I would guess, and woodlands. So we were not able to see each other's homes.
What did you do once you saw that smoke coming out?
We decided that we should go over and see what was going on. And so we got in the truck and drove over.
And did you drive out into the street?
Yes. Drove down the driveway and then out onto County Road 215 and headed in the direction of their home.
And then did you drive down their driveway?
Yes.
Did you have any difficulties driving down that driveway?
No.
And what did you see when you arrived?
The first emergency vehicle had arrived and was there, I guess, marking the driveway for vehicles that were to come. And as we pulled into the driveway, we could see that there were flames coming from the house.
Did you see any people?
Not until we drove back further.
So did you and your son then continue to the house?
Yes, I parked the car in the pasture land there, told my younger son to stay in the truck and my 16-year-old son to come with me as we went over to where we saw some people.
Do you remember who you saw?
Yes. I saw Mike Matheny and Connie Calhoun and Linda Stermer standing there, and then there was one person on the ground.
Did you know who was on the ground?
Not at first. I wasn't sure if it was Todd or possibly his son Trevor.
What was the condition of the person you saw on the ground?
He was unconscious, laying on his back, and he'd obviously been burned. He had all hair was gone, which made it more difficult to tell his age. His skin, it wasn't blackened as you might have imagined, but burned, and so weeping serous fluid, perhaps a little swollen and puffy, and then also making it a little harder to determine his age, based on facial appearance, no wrinkles. So that was the general appearance.
Did you see anything to help you identify who it actually was?
Yeah, it occurred to me to look at his left hand, and I saw his wedding band, and then I realized it was Todd for sure.
Was anyone attempting to administer aid at that time?
No, not yet. Actually, I did ask if anyone had called 911, and I think it was Mike Matheny that said that 911 had been called.
So when you arrived, was everybody just kind of around Todd?
Yes, they were standing beside him.
Was he conscious at that time?
No,
Did you hear him say anything?
no, he was not responsive.
And at that point, what did you do, or how did you assist?
Well, I just started going through initial assessment, determined that he was not responsive, checked if 911 had been called, and then tried to, I could see that he was breathing somewhat irregularly. I tried to feel for a pulse and spent a little time feeling for a pulse, couldn't really get a very distinct pulse at all. And then determined that we were just not in a safe situation.
And why was it not safe?
We were about 20 yards from the building itself, and between us and the building was their home, I think it was their home heating oil tank, some type of fuel tank, a green tank. It was about 5 yards from the building and about 15 yards from us. We were just right next to it.
And so what did you do based on that
So
observation?
I felt we needed to move him. I just couldn't imagine dragging a burn victim across a horse pasture. And I said, we've got to find something flat to transport him on. And so Mike and my 16-year-old son, Luke, ran off and found something we could put him on and transport him on.
Do you remember what they found?
It looked like a kind of a mini plastic John boat.
John boat. So for those of us who
A
don't
John
know,
boat is kind of like a flat bottom boat, not a V-hull boat. And it was like about half the length of a normal John boat. So it's probably about 8 feet long or 6 or 7 feet long, maybe.
so when you say a John boat, I'm picturing an actual boat in my mind.
Yeah, a boat, a little boat.
And it was made out of what?
I think it was plastic. It was green, and I think it was plastic.
Did it have edges on it?
It had like a rim, and we were I remember we were able to hold that rim. It had seats in it, so we weren't really able to, like a bench seat or maybe 2 bench seats front and back. And then, so we couldn't really lay him flat, but we were able to at least put him in it and not have to carry him and drag him across, a soiled field.
What was Linda doing at this time?
She was wailing, and that was actually, we realized that was a noise we had heard from our home, wailing and crying, varying degrees of upset as minute by minute went by.
Did you ever see her on top of Todd or by his facial area?
No.
Do you recall how long you were on scene?
I don't really know. I would say I think we worked with him for 20 to 30 minutes total. I would guess that would be my guess. And then a few minutes, and we gathered my family, and then we left. So
Do you see Linda Stermer in the courtroom today?
I can't recognize you. I don't know. Maybe that's you right there, Linda. Yeah, I guess that's you, Linda. Yes, yes, I do.
And could you just point to her or describe her by something she's wearing?
Um, kind of gray hair, pink blouse, headband.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant. I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Morning.
Excuse me, Doctor, I understand you are a dentist, right?
Correct.
Right. Prior to being a dentist, though, you and I have spoken once on the phone, I think, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and you were an EMT.
I was an RN. I worked mostly in critical care for 5 years before being a dentist.
So you know a lot about treating people, patients.
Some, yes.
All right. When you first were outside and you noticed smoke first or heard a wailing first? Strange sound.
We heard the sound first.
Okay. It wasn't just a faint sound, right? You could actually notice and look around. What the heck is that?
We could hear the sound clearly.
And you live a third of a mile away.
Approximately, I'd say a third to a fourth of a mile in a straight line.
To the north of Todd's and Linda Stermer?
Yeah, they would be to the southeast. I would be to the northwest.
Okay. So you go over to the house and ultimately you realize that the strange sound you heard was Linda screaming and wailing hysterically. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you also notice what she was wearing?
I don't recall at all what she was wearing.
Do you remember that she wasn't wearing any shoes?
No.
You got to what you ultimately learned was Todd Stermer, right?
Correct.
Did you start to try to do care, given you had a nursing background, a medical background?
I'm sorry. Did I try to
do care for him, to treat him?
Yes. I was evaluating him and preparing to do CPR, but we felt we had to move him first.
Okay. I'm going to talk about when you moved him, but Your Honor, I'm going to grab this easel. You, if I heard you right, you and your son Luke
Yes.
and Mr. Matheny are the ones who found this 6 to 8 foot, did you call it a John boat?
No, just my son and Mike.
Okay, Mike. They found it. They brought it over to you, right?
Yes.
And because here's the house. This is to the north, right? If this is the front of the house,
Yes.
you're to the north. You live out here, right, to the north?
Roughly.
Okay. Todd Stermer is somewhere, and here is a fuel tank. Remember a green fuel tank?
Yes.
Todd Stermer is somewhere closer to the fuel tank.
About 15 yards from the fuel tank.
I can't see it.
Just gonna put, not the scale, obviously.
I can't see what he's doing.
Council can move around.
If you want to,
I don't know how
do you want to, can you
Good.
see it now?
Maybe he's going to decide on that.
I'll hold it up for you, Doctor.
On
I
the
can
side,
see.
I mean, if you want to come up to a spot where you can see it better.
So you decide, the three of you or more, decide we need to move him because there's a risk of fire from this fuel tank, right?
Correct.
And the house is on fire, as you see, right?
Yes.
When you came up, mostly from the upper floor.
Yes, that's what I saw coming out of the upper level.
Do you remember what side it was on? If the north is where you are, south?
I just remember seeing flames coming from the upper level, through the roof, around the dormers maybe, but just the upper level.
Okay. Then you take this 6 to 8 foot long, that's what it's a John boat?
Yes,
I'll just call it a boat. And you put Todd Stermer in the boat.
correct.
So where you found him is position 1, right?
No, we brought the boat right up to him and then lifted him.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
we didn't have to move him any distance at all. They brought the boat right up to him.
I got it. I'm just saying, position 1 is where you found him. You brought the boat to him.
Yep.
And then you moved him to a position somewhere about how far away?
I would guess it was maybe 50 to 75 yards towards the road, away from the house. So that would be 50 to 75 yards to the northeast.
Okay. Right? So this way,
Yeah.
right? Not the scale, but 50 to 75 yards.
Mhm.
Yes?
Yeah.
And then you take him out of the boat, right?
Correct.
And this is where, at position 2, you start performing medical treatment for him
Yes.
as best you can.
Yes.
You said I think you tried to do CPR, but his airway was closed off?
Yes. Compressions were being done with Officer Gruss, and I was attempting to perform respirations.
The respiration is breathe through the mouth, open mouth,
Right.
mouth to mouth.
EMTs arrived, and I believe they had an ambu bag for me.
When you were there, are you on your knees right over him?
Yes.
You're very close to his body, right?
Yes.
You never smelled a strong odor of gasoline, did you?
I don't recall smelling it.
Given that this was a house fire and you're a trained RN, if you had smelled a strong odor of gasoline, you would have remembered that, right?
Most likely.
Okay. I don't want to butcher it. Mousali?
2 S's.
2 S's, my fault. Sorry, sir.
No problem.
So you didn't smell an odor of gasoline. You did end up smelling, though, an odor of bowels, right?
Correct.
And that was a strong odor.
I wouldn't say strong, but I thought I could smell it all.
What does a bowel smell to somebody in your position as a trained RN? What does that indicate in terms of death?
I was concerned that perhaps he had already passed.
What happens that would cause someone to emit a bowel smell?
Just a relaxation of muscle that would then allow some bowel to pass.
You never had a conversation with Linda while you were at the scene, would that be fair?
She asked me a couple times if I thought he was alive. That was the only conversation we had.
And during the whole time where you were with Todd, she was trying to, she was just out of control, fair?
She was crying the whole time, I would say.
Wailing loudly, which is why you compared it and said, yeah, that's the sound we heard.
I seem to remember that at the initial encounter when I first got there, and then just perhaps just crying as time went on.
How long were you there on the scene, you think?
At least half an hour.
Can you give me 1 second, Your Honor?
Well, he wasn't as confrontational that time. He was doing stupid stuff, but he wasn't as confrontational.
Were you ever interviewed by any insurance company representatives, investigators?
Yes, I'm not sure exactly what his position was, but I thought he was some kind of an investigator.
Does a guy named James Shinsky, ring a bell to you?
Vaguely.
Do you recall telling Mr. Shinsky that you smelled no odor?
Not distinctly, really.
Okay. If you would have told him you smelled no odor, like of gasoline or any accelerant, back a couple days after the fire, that would have been a better memory than now.
Probably.
But even now, you know if it was significant, if you smelled a significant smell of gasoline, you would have remembered it.
Yes.
And you don't know what caused the fire, do you?
Not really.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Satterwhite?
Thank you, Your Honor. Doctor, is it safe to say there was a lot of chaos going on at this moment?
Probably more than I was aware of. I was pretty focused on Todd.
And that was going to be my next questions. Your focus was on Todd.
It was.
And you are by his chest and his head area,
Correct.
correct? And were you ever down by his feet or his ankles?
No.
So you remained up here to be able to work on his mouth, his breathing, and his heart.
Yes.
Is that correct? And you said you felt maybe there was a slight smell of bowel.
Yes.
Does flesh also have a smell when it burns?
It probably would have. His skin was not blackened. There were portions of his ears missing, but I don't really ever remember smelling anything like burning flesh.
How about burning hair?
Don't remember smelling that either, but his hair was all gone.
And you were also on the ground. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
So you have grass and dirt as well, right?
Yeah, we were in a horse pasture
And you're also then very close to the home at this point.
initially.
And can you smell the fire and the smoke?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Just a couple questions. You said you noticed the skin was not blackened,
Correct.
like as if you had direct flame burn, right?
I wouldn't say direct would be the right word, but
Your Honor, I
maybe.
would object. He doesn't have he wasn't the doctor that actually performed it. I think he's just outside of his scope of knowledge.
He's a former RN, and he said the skin was not blackened. I'm just trying to explore, what does he mean?
I'm not so sure he
Thank
understands
you.
the temperature skin burns at, Your Honor, when it becomes black.
Thank you. I'm just asked, from your experience as an RN and treating patients, have you experienced burn injuries?
Yes.
All right. So you've seen people burn badly, not just Todd Stermer,
Yes.
and you've seen them where it's been blackened skin, right?
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to be gross here, but like a hot dog that's been burned too long, you've seen skin like that from fires.
Yes.
This was more a thermal. You know anything about convective heat and radiant heat?
Yes.
All right. This is more those type of burns, wasn't it? What you saw.
I don't know if I can apply those terms. I would just say my description of the skin would be that it was oozing serous fluid, slightly puffy, but not blackened.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Satterwhite?
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Jury, any questions of this witness? Anyone? No questions. May he be excused from his subpoena, counsel?
I would ask that you please be excused from the subpoena, Your Honor.
Any objection, defense?
By all means, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're all done and you're excused from your subpoena obligation. Ms. Satterwhite?
Thank you, Your Honor. I keep a call Annette Crandall.
And ma'am, before you have a seat, I'll have you face me, please, and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. I'll have you have a seat. And I'm taking a guess right now that you're soft-spoken, so.
No, I can handle it.
You can? Okay, so if you could put that microphone right up to your mouth, and then tell us your full name and spell your last, please.
Annette Crandall, Crandall.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ms. Ivan?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Crandall, on October 31st of 2023, were you contacted by law enforcement regarding the investigation with Todd and Linda Stermer?
Sounds like about the right time frame.
And do you remember January 7th of 2007?
Somewhat. It was a long time ago.
Did you go to the scene of the fire?
I did.
And how early did you arrive at the scene?
Some of the fire trucks were there, some were still arriving.
So you were pretty close in time to the start of the fire trucks arriving.
Yes.
What did you do when you arrived on scene?
I parked across the street to stay out of the way.
And then what did you do?
Watched. I did call my cousins because they were also friends and told them what was happening, and waited until one of the firefighters' wives showed up with cases of water, and I helped carry them to the scene.
So you were carrying like drinking water?
Cases of drinking water.
And who are your cousins that you called?
Kim and Ken Thompson.
And who helped, then you were helping, then who dragged the water up?
I don't know who brought the water. I just know it was one of the firefighters' wives.
Did Kim and Ken Thompson, your cousins, come to the scene?
They did.
And at that, how long did it take before they arrived on scene?
I have no idea.
Was it a short amount of time after you arrived?
I couldn't tell you.
Did you see Linda Stermer at the scene?
I did. She was sitting in a pickup truck with a deputy, and I asked the deputy if I could sit with her. And he got out of the truck and I sat with her for a while.
So then you were there keeping her company?
Yes.
And can you describe her demeanor at that time?
She was pretty much in shock. We talked small talk. She wasn't real talkative.
But she was able to have a conversation
sure.
with you, answer your questions?
I didn't ask many.
And at some point, did you call your mother, Gail?
Yes, I did.
Why did you call Gail?
Because Linda's clothes were wet and messy, and she needed dry clothes, and my mom's about the same size, so I called her and asked her to bring Linda some clothes.
Did you ask her to bring anything else?
I think I said shoes, but I can't tell you that for sure.
Did you see if Linda had shoes on?
She did not.
Was she in her bare feet?
Socks.
And at some point, did your mom arrive with the shoes and clothing?
She did.
And did you give them to Linda?
I don't remember. Yes, I don't remember the exact order of things.
Were you with her when she changed?
No,
Did you see her after she changed?
I don't think so.
So after you brought her the clothes, do you remember what you did?
Mom brought her the clothes, and then Mom sat with her. I can't tell you where, and I think I left.
You left? So how long do you think you were there?
A couple hours.
A couple hours. And when you left, where was Linda at the time you left?
I think she was in the ambulance.
Did you ever say anything to Linda about why there was blood on the van?
I didn't say, I had no way of knowing that. I didn't say anything to Linda about that.
Did you have any conversations after that day about the blood on the van?
No, she made a comment about the van that she had tried to pick Todd up and leaned him against the van to open the door.
So she was the one telling you that?
Yes, I didn't ask her anything. She told me that.
Because you didn't know about the van, you didn't know about blood, you didn't know
No.
about any of
I
that.
had not been behind the house. I knew none of that.
So she told you she picked Todd up and leaned him against the van?
Yes.
And that's why there was blood on the
Yes.
van? Did she make any other comments about Todd?
No.
Do you see Linda Stermer in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And could you just point to her and describe her by something she's wearing?
Black jacket, peach shirt.
Person that was there on January the 7th of 2007 that met with Ms. Crandall.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all recognized.
Thank you. I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am. The defense counsel may.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Crandall.
Good afternoon.
How long have you known the Stermer family?
I've known Linda for a long time. I can't tell you when I met her. I didn't know the whole family. I knew Linda.
Okay. And from your house to their property, was it within walking distance?
Oh, no, 2 or 3 miles.
2 or 3 miles?
Mhm.
What was it that gave you indication that there was some disaster that had occurred at her house?
The fire department went by my house and I had a nudge that said, go to the fire. I don't know. That was all that. So I went.
Okay. Do you know,
I didn't know where it was.
so you didn't know where it was?
No idea.
So after the fire department came by your property, did you just decide to get in your car and drive through it would be the neighborhood or the area?
The area.
The area, okay. And to your surprise, you come upon the property that is a friend of yours, is that
Yes.
correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, when you arrived, did you see any other first responders other than the one fire truck?
There were several fire trucks there. There were still fire trucks arriving.
Okay, okay. Did anyone prevent you from coming up on the property?
No,
Okay. Did you have to speak with any law enforcement officer to identify who you were for
no,
being there?
no.
Okay, okay. So when you first arrived, where did you see Miss Stermer?
I didn't.
You didn't see her?
I was on the other side of this road. It was not close to the house, and I stayed out of the way.
Okay. So you parked your vehicle on the side of the road,
Mhm.
and then walked up to the property?
Yes,
About how far a distance was that?
100 yards.
Okay, okay. Had you been to the property before?
No,
Never?
never.
Okay. But you knew that's where Linda Stermer stayed.
I did.
You just had never been inside the house.
Correct.
Were you living there when they started building the house?
I don't
the
know.
area.
I don't know.
Okay, okay. Well, now you're on the property, you see that you can clearly see that the house is burned. Is that right?
Correct.
Fire department is still trying to suppress the fire. Is that
Correct.
correct? And how do you find out where Linda is? Does somebody tell you that she's?
No,
in
I
the
saw
truck?
her sitting in the pickup truck.
You saw her sitting in the pickup truck?
Mhm.
Okay. When you first approached the truck, can you explain what her look was, her demeanor?
I didn't approach the truck on her side. I approached the side the deputy was sitting on. And so I didn't see Linda clearly until I got in the truck.
Okay. So was it a truck that had a back seat?
No,
Okay. So you got in the front seat with Linda?
yes,
Okay. And you could immediately tell then that she was in shock
acted that way, yes.
and that you stated that her clothes were disarrayed, that they were wet.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
Was it anything else distinguishable about her clothes that you could tell us today?
I'm not an expert, but it appeared to be they had blood, mud, something on them. I didn't look real closely.
Okay. Okay. From that point, that time of day, on that date, what would you say the weather conditions were?
It was sloppy, snowy, muddy. It was, I don't remember if it was snowing. It might have started raining or snowing. I don't remember that. I remember the ground was wet and snowy and muddy.
And muddy? Okay. And was driving kind of compromised because of the,
I didn't try to drive on it, but I would think so.
okay. Was the road that you drove on?
No, it's paved.
Oh, the road was your road. Was the property her, Ms. Stermer's property, was there any concrete pavement on their property?
Not that I saw.
Okay. And so after you got in the truck and you were, I would say, consoling Miss Stermer, is that right?
Yes,
And you said you called your mother to see if she could bring some clothes to Miss Stermer?
after a while, yes.
Okay. And did your mother in turn do,
Yes, she did.
did she come to the location that you have to go get the clothes?
No, she came to the location.
Okay. Now, did your mother stay a while you were there?
Yes, she stayed a while. I don't remember how long.
Okay. And your mother's name is
Gail?
Miss Gail Crandall?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now, when your mother arrives with the clothes,
Mhm.
how does Miss Stermer change clothes?
In an ambulance?
In the ambulance?
Yes,
Do you know what items was brought to her?
I do not.
Okay. Did you go to the ambulance with her?
No, I did not.
Do you know how she was escorted to the ambulance?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did you stay there until she changed clothes, though?
I don't know that I did.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. But based on some information, you knew that she was able to change clothes in the ambulance.
That was my understanding.
Okay. Okay. Have you ever observed anyone that has been in a traumatic situation like a house fire? Friend of
No,
yours?
not like this.
Not like that?
No.
Okay. Did you happen to see Mr. Stermer just by coming up on the property when you
No.
arrived? You did. Okay. Have you had to give any interviews to any insurance investigators or any other law enforcement agencies
Just a
since
deputy. I was interviewed by a deputy.
that night?
No. This was 18 months ago. ish.
Oh, in preparation of the
Yes.
trial. Okay. Okay. Can I have just a second? I think I'll be finished, Your Honor.
Why did they even call her?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Crandall. I have no further questions. I'm sorry.
I just have one brief one. So you left before you actually talked to any deputies or anything on scene that night?
Correct.
I have no further questions. Just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Jury, do you have questions of her? I've got at least one hand going up. Did you write it down already? Okay, thank you. Counsel?
Really? I don't. She'd never even been to her house before. But they've been friends for a very, very long time.
Lawyers, how much snow was on the ground at the time at the event at the Stermer house? Obviously, you would only know from when you got there, but
It wasn't a lot. I would say 3 to 4 inches, enough to be sloppy.
okay, thank you. Counsel, any other questions in light of that question and answer?
Can I have back the first exhibit? I'm going to show you what we've already admitted is People's Exhibit number 1. Can you just kind of flip through those and just take a look at the ground? So when you first arrived, it was after the fire trucks came. Did the weather change from the time you arrived till the time you were there?
I don't know that the weather changed, but there was a lot of traffic, and there wasn't enough snow that it couldn't have been affected by the traffic and the heat.
I'm sorry, there wasn't enough snow that.
It wasn't a huge amount of snow. It was enough to be sloppy and messy, was what I remember.
Okay, and you remembered, I think you said something about rain too, is that
Yes.
right? So when you're looking at those pictures, does that seem to refresh your memory or out of the ordinary for what would have been that night, the weather that night?
That could have been.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Kelly?
Ms. Crandall, may I approach you? Sure. Would it be fair to say that based upon your observation when you arrived at the location, approximately what time was it you think you arrived?
I have no idea.
Was it dark?
I don't believe so.
It wasn't dark?
It was close.
Okay. But those pictures look as if it's in the dark though, right?
Correct.
Right. And it wasn't dark when you arrived there?
It was close, but no,
But
it
it
was
wasn't
not
dark? Right. Okay. Any further questions?
Anything else inside of you? Jury, any other questions of her? No questions. May she be excused from her subpoena?
I would ask that she please be excused from subpoena.
Any objection, counsel?
No objections, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. You're done and you're excused from your subpoena obligation. Mhm. Ms. Ivy?
Saw a fire truck and she decided to follow it deeper in the fire bush. That's third. She must have nothing to do. Literally nothing to do.
Making a quick change just based on time.
Okay.
The people call Steve Leach to the stand.
Sir, if you could face me, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And you can move the microphone right up to your mouth so that
Okay.
you can hear you. Oh, good. And if you could tell us your full name and spell your last, please.
Stephen George Leach, Leach.
Thank you, Ms. Flanagan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Leach, what is your current occupation?
My current occupation, I am area manager for Wholesome LaFarge.
And how long have you been doing that?
3 years.
And then what did you do prior?
Well, I've always kind of had a side. Most of my life has been in the gravel construction industry.
Okay. What was your profession in January 7th of 2007?
I was the fire chief.
And the fire chief of where?
Fire chief of Lawrence Township Emergency Service.
How long were you the fire chief?
I was the fire chief in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2009, 10, and 11.
And then in between, were you also then still a firefighter?
Yes.
So when you were not the chief, you were still a firefighter?
Yeah, I got on the department in 1995, got off for a few years in 2018, and recently got back on that department.
So on January 7th of 2007, were you called to the residence on County Road 215?
Yes,
And was that in your official duty as then fire chief?
yes.
And what did you do then when you received that call?
I responded. I actually live on 54th Street, which that section and through town that isn't 215. So essentially I live on that same street, about 4 miles away.
So once you got that call, how long did it take you to get to the home?
It didn't seem like that long. I mean, I had just walked in the house when the pager went off, put my shoes back on, got in the truck, drove direct to it. So probably, maybe 5 minutes to get there.
And I just want to be clear, you came from your own residence?
I came from my residence,
just
yes.
minutes away.
Yeah.
And when you arrived, tell me what you did.
When I first pulled in the driveway, when I got turned up the drive, I noticed I'd already noticed you could see the flame from pretty much the smoke and heavy smoke from my house. But as soon as I pulled into the drive, I noticed Mike Matheny standing at the edge of the house, waving towards me to come to where he was standing. And when I pulled up there, it was Mike and two people laying on the ground which turned out to be Todd and Linda on top of him.
And when you say she was on top of him, what do you mean on top of him?
So like say he was laying on his back and she was literally on top,
Crosswise?
hysterical, but, the
Was she by his head and chest area, or
Yeah.
where was she on his body?
head and chest area.
And based on just your observations as somebody who's worked in fire and your experience, was this something that was peculiar to you? Not her
But-
laying on him, the fire itself, I apologize. Was the fire itself peculiar to you in any way as your experience as a fire chief?
It wouldn't have been,
Foundation. There's no foundation. He would.
No, I'm not asking expert, just his layperson observations of the fire.
wasn't what I was,
He's the fire chief, not a fire investigation expert. Granted, he's seen fire, but to call something peculiar is an opinion that a professional, not even a professional, would make.
Council, can you approach, please?
Yep. So when you went down the driveway, did you have any trouble getting down the driveway at all?
the actual part of the driveway, no.
And where did you park your vehicle?
So it went up, like I said, when I was coming up the drive, up a little bit of an incline, that's when I noticed Mike and what turned out to be Linda and Todd laying on the ground there. Would have been probably maybe a little further from you, maybe 1.5 times from me to you, away from the structure.
And so did you park your car then at
Jumped
that
out,
point?
yeah,
Jumped out?
parked right beside them, and jumped out.
And were you on their driveway, or just did you pull into the yard,
Side yard.
side yard? And at that point, was anybody trying to administer aid to Todd?
No, Linda was on top of him. I was the first one I tried to get, I got her off so I could assess what I was looking at. And then she got back on and that's, please get off. I need to do my job. I need to assess what's going on here.
So you started, and then she jumped in,
Jumped back on top of him.
and she still was on top of him at that point?
Yeah,
And then what did you do to get him off?
got her. Linda, please, I didn't know her by name, but ma'am, please get off. I need to be able to do my job.
So once you arrive there and you see these other folks and you get Linda off of Todd, what do you do?
I started looking him over and trying to assess what was going on. He was badly burnt, but he also was bleeding a little bit, which in my brain I was pulling up, and thinking, okay, fire, but it wasn't. It kind of threw me back for a second to notice the blood. He had some blood in his mouth and things. It was also burnt, but it was, there was blood on him as well. And that it just kind of threw me back for a second to try to figure out what was going on here.
And trying to figure out what type of aid to administer?
Yes, ma'am.
And so what did you do then after you were able to then view this blood and start to assess him?
It wouldn't have been long after that when somebody else came up along with us. When I opened his mouth and checked the airway, then I got back into my truck and grabbed my jump bag to where my oxygen and my masks and things like that would have been.
And then you were able to grab all that equipment out?
Yeah.
Where was Todd located at this time?
At that point, he was still right near the house, but it was getting very hot. And so then, I don't remember in time lapse, I was trying to make sure that we were still safe in an area, that the incoming trucks. Then I remember moving or helping move Todd further away from the house.
So you were part of that, of moving him?
Yeah.
And do you know what you did, like what you moved him on, or?
It seemed like it was like a kid's sled or something like that somebody had found in the yard. You don't even know who at that point. You're, not paying attention to that kind of stuff. But we got him on that, and it seemed like there were about 3 or 4 of us drug him further away from the structure to a safe area.
Was he alive before you put him on the sled?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of an agonal breathe, but he was breathing.
When you say agonal, what does that mean?
Not a good breath. It was more of a pained breath, it was just something that they taught you in EMT school, but it was the first time I'd ever witnessed. And then at that point you were like, oh, that is exactly what they meant when they talked about agonal breathing.
So this is the first time you'd ever seen that labored breath?
Yeah.
And did you check him to see if he had a pulse before you moved him?
Yes.
Did he have a pulse?
Yes.
And then you moved him. And then was there additional aid that was then rendered on him?
Yeah.
What type of aid then was being done on him?
I didn't do so much of it, but by then, because enough people had come in, but they were starting to do CPR. I had the AED that I had one in my truck. They tried to hook that up, and
What's that?
an automatic defibrillator
And that's to check the heart?
to shock the heart. Trying to put the pads on, and it was so the body between the pads wouldn't stick.
Was that because of the injuries?
Injection foundation, hands fall, off and speculate.
He's trying to adhere pads to his chest and saying they didn't stick, so I'm just asking why.
They have something.
Guess I'll allow you to ask him if he knows why.
Okay. Do you know why the pads didn't stick?
There was a lot of odor of things, but and the body was burnt badly, so I don't know what.
You said there was a lot of odor of things?
Fuel.
You could actually smell fuel?
It was kind of.
So you smell a smell of fuel?
An odor.
And where did you smell that?
On or about the body in that area.
Did you know where it was coming from at that time?
No.
But you smelled that when you were rendering aid?
Yeah.
Did Todd ever say anything to you?
No.
Did you continue to render the aid until the EMTs got there?
Yeah. That's when, like I said, once we moved him away, and that's when the incoming people were starting to, and so then I went to go be the fire, or, not that one was more important, but direct the fire aid, or to put the fire out.
So that's when you jumped into fire mode?
Yes.
When you went with your vehicle so did you just keep your vehicle then close to the body, or did you ever move your vehicle then?
Yes, it would have been too hot where it was at as well, so I had to move it.
And had to move it away?
Yeah.
Did you find it difficult to travel on that grassy area?
When I got to the grass, I did have to put it in four-wheel drive. Yes. It was kind of a greasy area.
What was the weather like at that time?
It seemed like it was rainy, sleety, kind of trying to spit some snow.
And then you moved into then fire mode after that.
Yeah.
I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Just want to make sure we're clear on the weather conditions at the time. Your best recollection as you sit here 18 years later is that it was snowy and sleety,
Kind of a
right?
sleety.
Fair enough. Do you remember the temperature?
No, I don't. I was wearing, I just came from hockey practice for my son.
I just asked you if you remember the temperature, sir.
Okay. I was wearing a sweater and
Yes or no, do you remember the temperature that day?
the exact temperature. No, I would,
Okay.
I know what I was wearing to.
Would it help if I refresh your recollection with your report?
Sure.
May I approach on?
Dude,
Hold on, give me 1 second. Does this look familiar to you, sir?
Fire report? Yeah.
Okay. That's something you fill out in the ordinary course of your business
Yep.
when you report to a fire?
When you get back, yes.
That is your report, and
Yep.
you are trained to be accurate
Yeah.
in writing? Your Honor, I move for the admission of Exhibit II.
Your Honor, we object that you can't admit police reports as evidence.
It's all his firsthand information. There's no hearsay within hearsay.
you're always hearsay.
Okay. Sir, you're trained to write accurate reports, correct?
Yeah.
And in your report, am I correct? You say weather information, snow or sleet, like you just testified,
You get some choices, but yes.
and the wind speed is 10 miles an hour, correct?
Yep.
And the temperature is 32 degrees.
Yep.
Freezing, right? You know what freezing temperature is?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That would have been accurate because that's what you're trained to do.
Yep.
Let me just go through a couple of these dates and times here. On January 7, it says the alarm went off at 15:33, so 3:33 p.m.
Yep.
Then dispatch is at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. Then you were en route by 3:35.
Yep.
And get to the scene 3:40.
Yep.
All right. You don't know when the first call was made. Would that be fair?
No, I wouldn't.
That'd be fair?
That's fair.
Okay. So when you see Linda, you said she was on top of Todd, correct?
Correct.
You told her to get off, and she did get off, ultimately,
She did.
right?
Yes.
She was hysterical, clearly. Yes?
Yes.
And you've testified in a prior hearing. You remember testifying several years ago in the hearing in this case?
Yes.
You said she was wailing and screaming and hysterical, right?
Yep.
She was acting as somebody would who just had her husband horribly burned in a house fire, as you would expect. Fair?
Yes.
Her reactions were nothing out of the norm. And I'm sure you've been in plenty of other horrible situations, you being a fire chief,
Yes.
right? You said you noticed blood and that kind of threw you off a little bit.
Yes.
But when people get burned, blood vessels at some point burst, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're not qualified to talk
I'm
about
not,
that.
I guess I wouldn't, I mean, I've seen other badly burnt bodies, and it was not what I had seen in those particular cases.
Clearly, not every burn injury is the same, right?
Yeah.
You have to answer.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, I want to talk to you about this idea of You smelling an odor of gasoline.
I don't know that it was, it just was an odor that I've been in construction. My nose tells me when fire's about. I can smell hydraulic oils. I don't always identify what it is, but it just doesn't smell correct or something out of the ordinary.
Something out of the ordinary. You certainly can't say it was gasoline. Fair?
Fair.
All right. And when you got there, you weren't the first person. Fair?
Fair.
Todd Stermer was practically naked, right?
Yes.
Todd Stermer, when you arrived, had clothes over his groin area, over his privates.
Yes.
Did Mr. Matheny tell you, did you learn from Mr. Matheny that he's the one who put clothes?
I did not.
All right. And you certainly don't know whether the clothes had gasoline or fuel or anything else.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So as you sit here today, you would have no evidence on your own to rule out the fact that Mike Matheny's clothes could have been the cause of the smell of gas. Fair?
No.
He never said gas, he said fuel.
He did say gasoline on direct, specifically.
Fuel on direct, Your Honor.
It's gas because I agree with Messiah in my memories. He said he couldn't say it was gas, but you can ask him again.
As you sit here today, you can't rule out the fact that Mike Matheny's clothes could have possibly caused the fuel smell. Fair?
Couldn't identify how it got there, whether it was already on Todd, on Mike, or on Linda. I have no idea how it got there.
And as you sit here today, even though you're a fire chief, you don't know the cause of this fire, do you?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
I rarely use the word fair.
I don't have more questions for you. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoy your retirement.
Messiah, thank you. Is this yours? Okay. You want this back, Mr. Mueller? I think you gave this to him. Thank you, sir. We have questions. I forgot. I usually do that with at least one witness in every trial. Thank you for, sir, I have a lot of questions, it looks like, so.
I wrote down that he smelled gasoline. Did I write it down wrong? Did he say fuel or gasoline? Man, I feel sorry for any parent that has to outlive a child. It's not natural. Who was which woman, Nancy?
From the jury, and just a reminder that juror questions are designed for questions of the witnesses as they're here on the stand. So after each witness, I'm supposed to ask you if you have any questions, but so just that's the parameters, is there questions for particular witnesses, okay? And I'm asking most of the questions that were presented. Some I'm not asking, I've determined under the law not to ask. Sir, what size and what type and size of truck were you driving?
I was driving a four-wheel drive Dodge 1500 half-ton,
Okay.
regular cab, four-wheel drive.
Okay. Please clarify the time of your arrival at the Stermer residence and who was there already.
With the report of what time it was 13
Refresh the recollection.
or 1540 with that report.
Is that what your report? Yeah, you can use your report if you need it, sir, to refresh your recollection.
I arrived at 1540, so 340. So roughly 7 minutes after the initial call came in.
Okay. Where did you observe Todd bleeding from? Was it his mouth only, or were there additional wounds you observed?
It, like on the head and the mouth, like in the teeth, I noticed, that's where I noticed it first, but it was on the head as well.
Okay, thank you. Counsel, oh, I have another one. Can you write it down? Ma'am, can you write it down? Oh, yeah, I have some I did not ask. Oh. Okay. Is it the same, so you already submitted it? You want me to just ask that again? I'll do it. Thank you.
They were just who was on the scene.
Is that it? Okay. Oh, okay. So who was on scene when you arrived?
Todd and Linda and Mike Matheny.
Okay. Any questions, attorneys? Did that answer that question? Thank you. Any questions?
Do you remember if Connie Calhoun was there?
I didn't see Connie. I mean, I didn't, Mike was the one standing right beside everything, waving. And so that's, if you were standing there going like this, my focus went to where Mike was. So I couldn't.
Were those the people around Todd?
Right. And so I didn't, she may have, may not have been, I don't know.
You just don't recall?
I do not recall.
Thank you.
Mr. Mueller?
Do you recall a Dr. Masali? You know who he is? Rich Masali?
Yeah,
Do you recall him being there before you?
I did not.
You're not saying he wasn't, you just don't remember.
I do not remember him being there before. I remember Mike, Linda, and Todd.
And if Connie Calhoun, who was with Mike, was up by her truck calling 911, you were focused on the house.
Correct.
So you wouldn't have known, maybe not remembered her.
Right.
And you can't dispute if they say
They were there first.
they were the two
yeah.
first ones.
Yes, you're correct.
Full-size Dodge 1500, what year?
2000,
All-wheel drive, you said?
four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel. And they had no problem in the terrain, being a four-wheel 1500?
No,
Fair?
fair.
Right.
Once I shifted it into four-wheel drive,
Which you had to shift in the driveway?
yeah, just reach down and flip the lever.
On this trip, I'm talking about when you got to the house. You shifted into four-wheel?
Once I got off the driveway.
Yeah.
Yes. None of the other portion of the route did I have to, no.
As soon as you got off the main straight driveway, which ends right in front of the house, as soon as you got a little bit off to the side is when you started to jump it into four-wheel?
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Just one question. When did Dr. Musali arrive? You know, like how long had you been there?
I noticed too, I know, and I didn't know it was Dr. Masali, but I noticed somebody else. About the time I was getting my bag, my medical bag out. And he appeared to know, well, he was a doctor. He appeared to know what he was, so.
And that was before you moved, Todd?
Yes.
I have no further questions, Sharon. Thank you.
Were you part of the group that actually physically moved Todd from close to the house to farther away?
Yes, there was, like I mentioned earlier, it seemed like 3 to 4 of us pulled that sled or whatever it was, physically had a hand on it, yes.
So just give me 1 second. To get ready for today's testimony, prepare with the prosecutor, going over what your testimony was going to be
Yeah.
and the subject matter. How long did you prepare with her?
I don't know, half hour. We talked about this and, yeah.
About the subject matters you wanted to talk, or she
Your Honor,
wanted
I'm just going to object. He's exceeding the scope at this point.
I got one more, right? To go over what your testimony was going to be in the subject matter of your testimony, right?
Yeah.
Including what you may have smelled on the scene, fair?
Talked about what I encountered that day, yes.
Including what you may have smelled from 18 years ago.
We talked about what I encountered that day.
Yeah, thank you.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Jury, any other questions of him? No questions. May he be excused from his subpoena, counsel? Excuse
I
from.
would ask that he please be excused from subpoena.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
Thank you.
Jury, if one of you needs a break, we'll take a 15-minute break. Otherwise, we can plow through till 4:30. Does at least one of you need a break? If so, raise your hand. Okay, let's keep going. Ms. Zeiderman, your
Thank
next
you, Your Honor.
witness.
People call Mike Needy to the stand, please.
You raise your right hand, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please have a seat. And once you are settled in, I'll have you, first off, the microphone, if you could put that right up to your mouth so that the jury can hear you. That moves at the stem.
Okay.
Thank you. And if you could tell us your full name and spell your last.
My name is Michael Clark Matheny, Matheny.
Thank you, Ms. Zeiderman.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Matheny, did you know Todd Stermer?
Yes,
How did you know him?
was my neighbor.
How did you know Linda Stermer?
She was my neighbor as well, and I sold hay to her.
Are they your direct neighbors?
Yes,
So your properties actually butt up to each other?
yes.
And can you tell me what happened on January 7th of 2007 on that afternoon?
Well, we were leaving our home, my girlfriend and I at that time, to go bowling. And as we left the house, walked onto our porch, I noticed a large fire at the Stermer residence. At the time, I didn't realize that it was their home. I just thought they had a big fire real close to the back of their home. So we get in our car, drive down the driveway, and we're down in a hole. We get up on top of the driveway, getting towards the road. I could tell that now it wasn't just a bonfire, that it was actually the house was on fire.
And so where were you living at that time?
Right next door to the Stermers.
What's the address? Do you know? And you said you were with your girlfriend, Connie?
Yes.
At the time, did you guys live together?
Yes, we did.
And would you have had to have driven past the Stermer home to go away to the bowling alley?
Yes.
And so as you were driving by and you realized that it was a fire, what did you do?
We pulled down that driveway to the Stermer home.
At that time, did you know it was more than a bonfire, or did you or a fire outside? Did you think it was more?
No, I thought it was more. I could tell when I got most of the way down my driveway that it was the back of the house.
Down your driveway?
Down my driveway. So when we got onto the road, we could still see flames, and then we pulled down the driveway. We just knew it was a house fire.
So then you went into the Stermer driveway?
Yes.
And approximately, do you remember, is it a long driveway, short driveway?
It's a long driveway. I'm guessing 100 to 150 yards off the road.
Who was driving?
I was driving.
And what did you observe as you were driving in?
When we were driving in, we seen a van at the front of the house. So we see the van at the front of the house, and then the van made a maneuver back up to the north, and then it pulled back around to the back of the house, the west side of the house.
So I want to stop you. As you're driving towards the house, what direction is the van facing?
I believe the van was facing the south.
Which would be then towards the road, to the side?
It'd be the side. So facing south, and I'm coming down the driveway. The road is to the east of that home.
Okay, so you're driving down. The van is then facing to the south as you're driving down.
Yes.
And then what does the van do?
Backs up to the north, far enough to where it could get around the back, drive to the north side of the house, and then come into the west side of the house.
So you saw the van then drive off the driveway to the north?
Yes.
And did the van stop at any point, or did it just keep on driving around?
Backed up, maneuvered to go behind the house, and then it parked behind the house on the west side of the house.
Did you see who was driving the van?
Yes.
Who was driving the van?
Linda Stermer was.
Did you make eye contact with her?
I don't recall making eye contact with her at that point, no.
How close did you get to the van?
Not very close to the van. I probably got, at that point, I was 40 yards.
You were about 40 yards away?
I parked up on the top side of the house, ran around the back side.
So when you continued then, the van had already gone to the back of the house and you parked at the top of the driveway?
Yes.
And that would have been close to the front door?
Yes.
And then what did you do once you parked there?
I ran around the back side of the house just to see who was in the van, and then to find out what was going on, and at that time I believe Linda had jumped out of the van already, and I was yelling to her, where's the kids? Where's Todd?
And did she respond to you?
Not at first, no.
What was she doing?
Just quite hysterical, yelling, just hands, and yeah, I don't know exactly, but very hysterical.
So did you actually see her get out of the van?
I can't recall, but I can't recall her actually getting out of the van, but
So when you
I'm
first
certain.
saw her, she was walking towards you from the van?
On the side of the van, possibly, just, we had some distance between us. So I can't recall exactly the distance between us. Don't recall exactly if I seen her step out of that van. But it was just the two of us there.
Nobody else was there at that time?
Nobody else was there.
So just you, Connie, and Linda?
Yes.
And as you were asking her, where's Todd, where's the kids, did she say anything?
No.
Was she able to then communicate to you at a point to tell you where Todd was?
Yes, finally, I was screaming, where's Todd? Where's the kids? Then she says, he's right there.
She said he's right there?
Yes.
And how far away was she pointing?
Once again, I'm not for certain, but she might have been 20 yards away at that point, you know.
And she's pointing 20 yards away?
Yes.
And
Basically
saying,
where I was, and then I looked and, I mean, he was right there. I just did not see him.
so he was close to you?
He was close to me, yeah.
How far? From you to me or farther?
Definitely, no, not, it was that close. Me to you or closer.
So let the record reflect approximately 15 to 20 feet.
18 feet-ish.
And so when you looked down and you didn't realize that was Todd?
Just never seen him. I was trying to get a grasp of the situation and try to figure out if no one, as hysterical as she was acting, I was trying to make sure there was nobody in that house. So I just did not see him. And then finally, where's Todd? Where's Todd? Where's the kids? I think going back on my memory, I think I got out of her that the kids weren't there, but then I was still trying to find out where Todd was. And that's when she said he's right there.
Did you go over to where she was pointing?
Yes.
And did you see Todd?
Yes.
And what condition was he in?
Badly burned. Neck up was basically gone. I mean, it was in, just a bad sight. Hands were badly burnt.
Was he clothed?
I didn't think he was clothed. I just seen a naked body.
What did you do once you saw that?
I ran up to my truck to tell my girlfriend. I don't know if I'd made a couple trips down, but I ran up to the truck at one point. It was either the second time or that time to tell my girlfriend, call 911. I think I'd made a couple passes down, and then when I seen Todd burnt, I definitely ran up to the truck to get some articles of clothing. It was cold out, to cover him, get under him, just some kind of comfort.
Did you find some clothes in your car?
Yes.
What type of clothing were you able to grab?
Just work hoodies, thermal stuff. It wasn't pants or nothing, but like hoodies, warm weather stuff that someone would wear as outer clothing that worked outside. Don't know what all was there, but I had lots of hoodies and thermal sweatshirts and things like that. So I'm certain that was just a pile of that stuff I brought.
Why did you have all that in your car?
Because I worked outside, and in the mornings it was cold. So you wear that to work. As it gets warmer, you take it off, throw it in the truck, and Next day, you repeat the process, and
So you grabbed the items and you went back to Todd.
yes.
And what was Linda doing at that point?
At one point, she came over to the body, to Todd, I'm sorry, and just was hugging him and, oh Todd, something to that effect, and still hysterical, but she was on his body.
So when you say on his body, what do you mean?
Just covering him. She was on his body on the ground with him.
Was she next to him? Was she on top of him?
I would call it she was on top of him.
Were they face to face?
Not face to face. I wouldn't say face to face. It was almost neck to face, chest to face. I don't.
But she was in this upper area.
Yes.
Did you see her trying to do CPR or mouth to mouth at that time?
No.
And then what did you do when you arrived back over to Todd? Did you cover him up with your clothing?
Yes. I'm sorry. I covered him, got some clothes under him, covered him with that same clothing, and that's about all I could do. I could think to do.
Was he face up or face down when you saw him?
I recall face up.
And nobody else had arrived at this point?
Not at that time, no.
So at the time you were covering him with the clothing, nobody else was there except for you and Linda and Connie?
Correct.
Did somebody eventually arrive?
Yes.
Do you recall who?
I don't remember if it was the fire chief or my neighbor, Mr. Mosali. I can't remember which one got there first, but at one point they both came over to Todd.
And did anyone try to render aid at that point?
Not that I noticed they weren't rendering aid at that point, no.
Did you assist in trying to move Todd?
Yes.
What was that discussion?
I can't remember who suggested it, but the fire was quite intense. There was a fuel oil tank right beside where we were, there with Todd. And someone suggested we got to get him away from the side of the house. So I don't recall if it was myself and another person. I believe it was Mr. Mosali's son. We went behind the house looking for something to lay Todd on and then carry him away from the side of the house. And we found, I believe it was a kayak or some kind of a little boat back behind their house, and we grabbed it, brought it up to the top of where his body was.
So when you say a kayak, I'm picturing something that's kind of angled up, like that you actually paddle in the river. Was it like that?
It was just a small little craft, but I want to say it wasn't like a canoe. It was more like a kayak, I want to say. And there was a cutout area in it to where you could lay somebody. And
For more clothes canoe.
I don't know if it was on a platform or not. To where you could get on four corners and take it away or not, but that's what we came up with, and I think that's what it was.
And so then you assisted then in putting him on in that kayak or that transport?
I believe I did. There was, I think at that time, 4 of us, I believe, and yes, we got him in that craft and got him away from the house.
Do you know if he was breathing?
I wouldn't be able to say if he was breathing. I never seen the chest moving that I can recall.
Did he say anything?
No.
The items that you put on, you said they were work clothes?
Yes.
And where do you work?
A family business. It's Clark's Auto Parts. It's a salvage yard. what you would call a junkyard. We deal in car parts, used car parts, and scrap iron.
Are you a behind the desk kind of a guy, or are you out in the field kind of a guy?
I'm a desk guy now, but then I was a field guy.
And you said that a lot of times you had those clothes on and it would get hot and you'd throw them in the back.
Yeah, yes.
When you were driving to go bowling, I mean, do those clothes stink?
No, I don't think they did. I didn't smell them.
So they didn't smell anything in the car?
No,
And when you put them on, Todd, would you have put them on, Todd, if you could smell anything on them?
no.
Witness, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
We are now here in late March of 2025. This fire happened 2007, 18 years ago. You're testifying, you're trying to give us your best memory, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. But you would agree, you probably had a better memory back in 2007 or 2010.
Yes.
You said you drove up, first of all, you saw the smoke, and then you realized, actually, as you were starting to come down your driveway, there's a fire. It's not a bonfire or something like that. There's a
That's
house
what
fire.
Yes. When I was still in my driveway, I noticed the house was on fire. Yes.
Yeah. What kind of vehicle did you have?
I had an F-150 extended cab.
Like an all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive?
Yes.
You come up to the driveway, and I'm not real sure how Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I make sure I'm right, we've been looking at the north being this way, okay?
Yes.
So you are here, right?
Yes.
And then Stermer are here,
Yes.
and then Dr. Masala is here.
Yes.
Okay. So you come from your driveway, and you're about, I think, 400 some yards, your property. You own a lot of property, right? Like a lot of acres.
That piece on that side of the road's 40 acres.
Okay. So you come down your driveway, and then you come up to Stermer's house, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been to the Stermer's house?
I'd never been in it. I've been in their driveway, I think, before delivering hay, but never inside.
You know, it had like a bay window area in the back.
It was a walkout, but I don't know how it was configured
If I
back
just
there.
showed you, and I'm just gonna show you for the record, this is Scott Leroy's picture of exhibit B.9. It's an aerial after the fire, but I will represent to you, it's been told to us that north is this way, to the right.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Am I right?
Can I see that again? Were you just, yes, north is that way, yes.
No, orange. Pardon?
Is this an
It is
exhibit
B.
admitted?
.9. I'm gonna move for the exhibit. You can look it
Okay,
up,
okay.
unless council wants to stipulate right now, but we'll look it up. Scott Leroy. Yeah.
Do you want to admit it?
I mean, we're gonna, Your Honor, just for the record, we're gonna do the same exhibit in digital format later on during Mr. Leroy's testimony, so I don't know if we want to duplicate.
I'll just move for, for the admission of B9 at this point.
Okay. Oh, so
Thank you.
we can, I'll admit it as defense exhibit B9.
If I show you this, you came up the driveway, right?
Yes,
Which would be from the bottom, from the east,
from the east, yes.
east to west. And ultimately, you saw Linda's vehicle in the back, correct? In the
Correct.
west.
Yes.
But first, you saw her backing up from the northeast end of the house.
About where your marker was, right?
All right.
To some degree, yes.
Kind of here at the bottom, right?
Yes.
She was sideways to you. She wasn't head on.
From my memory, I believe she was sideways, seeing me coming down the drive,
Heading backwards?
and then back towards the north to get room between, because there was a little side, it wasn't really a driveway, but they were kind of using it as a driveway to get behind the house.
Right, so there's no formal driveway.
Nothing formal.
It's kind of a path where people have driven. Fair?
Whatever, fair, yes.
All right. And not even a true two-track, because it's grassy.
There was grass there, so like I said, I hadn't been there, other than deliver hay, so I don't know, I just know there was grass there, so.
So you see her, and you park out in front, right?
Yes,
You see Linda driving back toward the back, right?
yes,
It's a high-stress situation for you even though, right?
yes,
All right. So you run toward the back, am I right?
yes,
And you actually ran past Todd Stermer once,
yes.
did not see him.
Did not see him.
Then you have testified before, you came back to the car to tell Connie, call 911. Right?
Yes, that was in my test, I couldn't remember which time I told her to call 911, but yes.
And on that time, you ran by him and you didn't see him again.
Correct.
He's laying on the ground.
Yes,
Then, after you're done telling Connie, call 911, you run back to Linda.
yes,
You didn't see him then.
correct.
So 3 times you did not see Todd Stermer as he was on the ground. Fair?
That's fair.
And we'll get to what you talk how you found out about Todd Stermer in a second. What I want to do, though, Your Honor, is play that 911 call. You told Connie to call 911, right?
Yes,
You know she did call 911.
she said she did.
Well, do you remember being on the phone for a second with 911?
Me personally?
Yes.
I don't remember, no.
Okay. If you heard your voice, you'd know it.
Yes,
And if you heard her voice, you would know her voice.
yes.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this point just for hearsay. I mean, he can play his voice. But I mean, honestly, at this point, he doesn't even remember being on the phone with 911.
This is the classic situation of 1, an excited utterance, and 2, a present sense of pressure. So it's not, and it's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, so it's not even hearsay.
Why is it offered?
Because it's offered to show the sense of the trauma and excitement in the scene, which is why we have an excited utterance if it were hearsay, but it's not offered for the truth of actually what's being stated in this conversation.
It's not a present sense impression.
Pardon?
It's not a present sense impression.
No, I'm more, I think it may be an excited utterance, however.
Literally an excited utterance.
But again, it's, he doesn't even remember the phone call. He doesn't remember if it's even his voice on the phone.
Well, we could send the jury out and have him hear it.
That's fine.
Okay. Jury, I'm going to send you out briefly.
He said he had his girlfriend call 911. Are they trying to say he called 911? And what difference does that? I remember playing Pictionary one night with friends from church, and the word was polyester. And my friend kept drawing people pushing shopping carts and people standing at cash registers. And we couldn't figure out why in the world she kept drawing people in supermarkets. And then when the time ran out, she said, polyester. Supermarket cashiers always wear polyester. Like, okay, you're right. That is true. I can't get Travis to play it because he's too embarrassed about his drawing. That's what makes it fun. That's the fun part. But he gets embarrassed because people laugh at him. That's the whole point. I've married a weird duck. He's a great husband. He's a wonderful person, and I feel blessed to have him.
Right before it. I don't know what
03025.
is my address. It's the house right before it.
Okay.
There's people here.
You know if anybody lives there?
I do, yes, they live here.
Is anybody inside you?
I don't know. I see people right now. I don't know if anyone's inside.
67030.
It is raining.
Is it north or south of you?
It's, oh my God. It's
Is it more
north of
towards?
me.
It's
Yeah,
north
it's
of
right before my house. It's right before. So it would be the number before me.
Okay, we'll have the fire department on the way. What's your name, please?
My name is Patty Calhoun. It's Linda Stermer's house.
Linda Stermer?
Yes.
Okay.
You heard the woman on the phone or on the 911 call?
Yes.
Recognize her voice?
Yes.
That Connie Stermer? Like Connie Calhoun?
Yes.
And you lived with her?
Yes.
Several years?
Yes.
Recognize her voice?
I do.
And is that her voice? Do you recognize that?
That's her voice. Yes.
And you recognize that as your voice on there?
I didn't
Oh,
hear
you
my
guys-
voice.
Oh, his voice isn't on there yet? Okay.
3:31 p.m., 7 seconds, January 7, 2007.
911 emergency.
There's a fire. There's a house on fire.
A house on
Right there. They live here.
Is anybody inside you?
I don't know. I see people right now. I don't know if anyone's inside.
67030.
It is raining.
Is it north or south of you?
It's, oh my God. It's
Is it more
north of
towards?
me.
It's
Yeah,
north
it's
of
right before my house. It's right before. So it would be the number before me.
Okay, we'll have the fire department on the way. What's your name, please?
My name is Patty Calhoun. It's Linda Stermer's house.
Linda Stermer?
Yes. Oh my
Okay.
God. She's outside. Well, I don't know if people.
They know?
She's outside, but she's screaming something to my boyfriend.
Okay. Can you see what she's screaming?
I know. They're like trying to get near the house. Like, I don't know if someone's there. She's freaking out.
I don't know.
Oh my God. Please don't tell me someone is there.
Are you able to go outside with your cell phone and see if
Yes.
we just want to know if anybody's inside or not.
Is there anybody inside? Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
There's
Yes.
someone
Yes.
inside.
Yes. Yes.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Okay, calm down. We got the fire department on the way there, okay? Okay. Yeah, through someone's inside. Your husband outside with yes, ma'am. Yeah, I need you to calm down so you can help me, okay? Okay, just calm down so you can help me. Do you know how many people are inside? She said someone's inside.
Yes, very hot.
Is that Linda in the background?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Where's your husband at?
He's right here.
Okay. Can I talk to him?
Yes. Can you run? I'm your husband. It's okay, Dad.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Todd.
What's your husband's name?
My name is Mike. I can't talk to him. He's very annoying. We're trying to call him over the phone.
Is your husband inside her house?
No, he's outside on fire.
Okay. Can I talk to your husband, please? Connie? 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 Okay, can you give the phone to your husband so I can talk to him? Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, is anybody still in the house?
No one's in the house as far as I know.
No one is in the house?
But the man is...
Hello?
West Military sign, 1534, yellow structure.
Sir, the male voice that was on that tape, was that you?
Sounded like me.
Connie Calhoun, you recognize her voice. You haven't been to any other fires at the Stermer house, have you?
No,
All right, especially on January 6, 2007.
correct.
That would have been your voice when she handed you the phone because 911 wanted to talk to her husband, you.
Yes.
Your Honor, the foundation is laid. It's not even offered for the truth of the matter asserted. It doesn't matter what is being asserted.
Anything else, Ms. Siderby?
I object, Your Honor. These are statements made in response to questioning. They are not excited utterances. So when they're being reflective answers to responses to questions, it's taken out of the excited utterance phase of somebody saying, oh, there's a fire. You have hearsay upon hearsay. You don't have the original dispatcher here or anybody to authenticate that tape. There's a plethora of problems here, Your Honor. I mean, he may recognize his voice, but these are not excited utterances when they're in response to questioning.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, I'm going to overrule the objection. First off, I find this is not hearsay. He's not trying to prove that there was a fire in the house through this 911 call. He's not trying to prove whether Todd Stermer was in the house or not. He's trying to, I believe he indicated, show the excitement of the situation. Even if it were offered for the truth of the matter asserted, I conclude that it comes under the excited utterance exception to the hearsay rule. It arises out of a startling occasion. It must be made before there has been time to contrive and misrepresent. I find that to be the case here. And it must relate to the circumstances of the startling occasion. So I find that all of those apply in this case. And I don't think because they're responding to questions that it takes it out of that. So I'll overrule the objection, allow the 911. Bring in the jury, please.
Didn't they already play the 911 call? So why can't they play it now? Because a witness is on the stand? Travis is, I suspect he's autistic. We don't know for sure. But we got clue. And I didn't think he'd be able to get it. He picked it up faster than the kids did. I had to apologize to him. I was like, Travis, I really didn't think that you would be able to figure out how to play this game. I owe you an apology. The girls were still going, now what? And Travis was explaining it to them. His brain,
Sir, you're still under oath, okay? Mr. Mueller?
Thank you. Sir, you told your then girlfriend, Connie Calhoun, call 911, and she did, right?
Yes.
Right.
Are you moving to admit that before you play it?
I'm going to move for the admission of exhibit HH.
Your Honor, do we have an actual, like a flash drive or something that's going to be provided for the jury to have in the, without seeing exhibit?
Absolutely will.
You said yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's exhibit. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You can, so admitted.
3:31 p.m., 7 seconds, January 7, 2007.
911 emergency.
There's a fire. There's a house on fire.
A house on fire, where?
County Road 215, 67030. My address is the house right before it. I don't know.
030-250.
It's my address. It's the house right before it.
Okay.
There's people here.
You know if anybody lives there?
I do. Yes, they live here.
Is anybody inside you?
I don't know. I see people right now. I don't know if anyone's inside.
670-250.
It is raining.
Is it not north or south of you?
Oh my God. It's
Is it more
north of
towards?
me.
It's
Yeah,
north
it's
of
right
you?
before my house. It's right before. So it would be the number before me.
Okay, we'll have the fire department on the way. What's your name, please?
My name is Connie Calhoun. It's Linda Stermer's house.
Linda Stermer?
Yes. Oh my
Okay.
God. She's outside, but I don't know if people's in it. Oh my God.
She is outside now?
She's outside, but she's screaming something to my boyfriend.
Okay. Can you see what she's screaming?
I don't know. They're like trying to get near the house. Like, I don't know if someone's there. She's freaking out.
Outside or not?
Oh my God. Please don't tell me someone's in there.
Are you able to go outside with your cell phone and see if?
Yes.
We just want to know if anybody's inside or not.
Is there anybody inside? Is there? Oh my God! Yes!
There's someone inside? Yeah? Okay, calm down. We got the fire department on the way there, okay? Okay. Someone's inside. Your husband outside with ma'am. Yeah, I need you to calm down so you can help me, okay? Okay, just calm down so you can help me. Do you know how many people are inside?
Is there anybody else inside?
She said someone's inside. Is that Linda in the background?
Yes.
Okay. Where's your husband at?
He's right here.
Okay. Can I talk to him?
Yes. Can you run? She doesn't run her husband. It's okay, Dad.
What's your husband's name?
His name is Todd.
What's your husband's name?
My name is Mike. I can't talk to him. He's very avoidant. I'm trying to call him all the phone.
Is your husband inside her house?
No, he's outside on fire.
Okay. Can I talk to your husband, please? Johnny? Johnny? Okay, can you give the phone to your husband so I can talk to him?
Hello?
Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, is anybody still in the house?
No one's in the house as far as I know.
No one is in the house?
But the man is...
Hello?
Sir, does that adequately capture the chaos?
Yes.
And that's what you observed in Linda Stermer as you were on the scene. Fair?
Fair, yes.
And when you ran back and forth the third time you ran to talk to Linda Stermer, you're yelling at her, "Where are your kids?" She couldn't even answer you, right?
Yes.
And then finally, you and she started looking around. "Where's Todd? Where's Todd?" You weren't getting an answer, right?
Correct.
And then she pointed, "There he is," right?
To my record, yes.
You then went back to your truck, right?
Yes.
And got clothes, you said, what'd you say you had, F-150?
Yes.
Was it from the bed of the truck or it's one of those with the two doors?
It's an extended cab. I got it out of the back seat.
Okay. You work, and you and I have talked before, right?
Yes.
I think you call it just an old school junkyard.
At that time, yes.
Scrapyard in
Yes.
2007. And you were a hands-on guy, right?
Yes.
And you deal in vehicles where you got to take them apart, strip them, right?
Yes.
So you have gasoline and fuel on your clothes, just kind of the course of your work. It's what you do.
It's possible, yes.
All right. So you got clothes, and because obviously Todd, we've heard, is naked from the waist down to cover him up for privacy or whatever, you put several pieces of clothing on him, right?
Yes.
I think you said a couple hoodies. Remember a flannel jacket?
Don't know exactly what it looked like, but that's something that I would have, yes.
If I show you the refreshes your recollection. Piece of clothes, red flannel jacket.
It looks like something that I would wear to work, yes.
Okay. If I tell you, and we'll talk about this later with other witnesses, if I tell you this is an item of clothing, that red flannel jacket, that he took off of Todd Stermer after the fire, and you wouldn't have any reason to disagree, that's what you put on.
Correct.
All right. Now, you folks, we've heard from Dr. Masali before you. Dr. Masali said his son, and you said his son and you found this dinghy type boat, right?
Yes.
Kayak, you said?
Something, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was something watercraft.
Okay, some kind of watercraft, but it was about 7 or 8 feet long. You recall you've told me that?
I don't know the exact length of what it was.
Roughly,
yes.
7 or 8 feet long. And you dragged it, you found that actually on the other side of the house, right?
I believe we found it on the west side of the house.
Toward the back here, you said.
Right, about near that shed right there.
All right.
Somewhere in that area is where it was.
All right. In the upper left corner of this photograph, that we said was B9, there's a shed.
Yes.
And somewhere in this area, you don't remember where, but you found this boat.
Yes.
And you had to drag it all the way over to where Todd was.
Yes.
Was kind of in this northwest corner by the drive, that little grassy area, right?
I was thinking it was northeast.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Let me back up. There was a green fuel tank that's
Yes.
on the north side of the house, right, pretty much in the middle of the house.
Correct.
And Todd was closer to that.
Yes, I
When
would
you
say.
when you first arrived and saw him, right?
Yes.
All right. So picture we just not the scale drawing, my crappy little drawing. You found him somewhere here, you put him in a boat, this is from Dr. Masali, and you took him more to the side of the road.
Yes.
Side of the big drive, right?
Yes.
All right. But you had put your clothes on him before he went in the boat.
Correct.
And as you sit here, you did not notice an odor of gasoline or any other petroleum product emanating from Todd Stermer before you put his clothes on him, fair?
I did not.
All right. If you would have noticed a strong odor of gasoline, fuel, whatever, you'd remember that, right?
I would think so.
Yeah. You would have noticed it because here's a man who was on fire, the house fire. Why do we smell gasoline on him? Fair?
Fair.
Yeah. Let me show you if I can show you something. See if I can refresh your memory. I'm going to show you an affidavit you had signed back on February 2, 2021. You see that? Bottom left?
Yes.
And that's affidavit of Michael Matheny. That's your signature?
Yes.
On paragraph 3, when I got to Todd Stermer, there was no odor of gasoline or any other petroleum product emanating from his body or clothes. If there had been, I would have noticed it. Did I read that right?
Yes.
That jog your memory that if you had actually smelled gasoline or some kind of fuel, you would have noticed it.
Yes.
I'll take that back from you. As you sit here 18 years later, do you think that when you first laid eyes on Todd Stermer after Linda and you were looking for him and she pointed him out, that you think he was on his back?
Yes.
Are you certain about that, or are you just 18 years later, best memory I can give you?
I'm certain about that. He was on his back.
Okay. You don't know how he got on his back, right?
No.
Am I right? You do not know how he got on his back. Would that be right?
That would be correct.
Thank you. Do you remember what she was wearing, Linda Stermer?
No.
And do you remember whether she was wearing that she didn't have any shoes on?
I don't recall.
One way or another.
One way or other. I don't remember what she was wearing.
Okay. Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
Okay.
You were interviewed by police officers on the scene, right?
Yes.
And then you were interviewed by an insurance investigator. You remember that? A couple days later, within a week or so?
I don't remember that.
Do you recall a guy's name, James Shinsky?
I don't.
Right. If he has a record from just a week after the fire that you said you didn't notice any odors, any reason to disagree with that?
Yeah, if I signed something,
It would be consistent with what you just testified to us now.
right, but I don't remember that conversation.
He has no memory. He talked to him. He has no memory what he said.
One, this is cross-exam, and I can ask him, if you said this, and he's got it in a report, you have no reason to disagree with it.
I'll sustain that objection.
All right. I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Seiderbean?
Thank you. And Mr. Yeah. All right. So when we listen to that tape, It sounds like it's a lot more than just chaotic.
Yeah, I never heard that before, yeah. Yes,
It actually even brought out emotion in you listening to it. So not only were you chaotic, Connie was chaotic. People were running around and screaming,
yes,
including Connie. You were panicked,
yes,
still even traumatizing to this day.
yes.
So you were not in a good frame of mind.
Not at that time.
So I want to clarify one of the questions that Attorney Mueller asked you. He said that you and Linda were looking around the property saying, where's Todd, where's Todd? But that's not how I remembered your direct.
And that's not how I remember it, no.
So I believe you testified that she walked up to you, or she was walking towards you from the van, is that correct?
There was some distance between us. She wasn't in the van. I'm still asking her, where's Todd? And at some point, I don't exactly remember how long or if she told me the kids weren't there, but at one point, there was still distance between us. She said right there.
So you weren't looking for him?
I wasn't looking for him, no.
She just pointed to him?
Yes.
So she knew where he was?
Objection. Form question. Call for him to speculate she knew where he was in the mind of another person? Really?
But if you can rephrase it.
So she said to you what?
He's right there.
And she was pointing directly at him?
I don't remember the pointing, but she just said he's right there, and there he was.
And again, you were not in the best frame of mind.
Correct.
So did you smell the burning fire when you were on scene?
Not that I recall. It was a fire. I don't know what I was smelling, but I don't remember what I was smelling. There was a fire.
Do you remember smelling burnt flesh?
No.
Do you remember smelling burnt hair?
No.
Do you remember smelling the mud as you were kneeling over Todd?
No.
Did you write that affidavit that Mr. Mueller just read from? Did you write that out for him?
My signature was on it, but it was typed out.
Did you type it out?
No.
So you did not type those statements?
No.
And you know from being at your profession, you know what oil, fuel oil, those types of things smell like, correct?
Correct.
And when you were in a better state of mind, thinking you were going bowling in your vehicle, did you smell anything in your vehicle at that time?
No.
If you would have had clothes that smelled of work, would you have taken them out of your vehicle?
Gasoline, I would have, yes.
At any time, were you down by Todd's feet?
Not that I recall.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Sir, you know what an affidavit is, right? It's a sworn
statement.
It's a sworn statement where you swear to tell the truth.
Yes.
And you read it and understood it, because you can read and write, right?
Correct.
And you agreed with it, otherwise you wouldn't have signed it.
Correct.
Now, as to this question about gasoline or the clothing in your truck, you have never experienced putting clothing with gasoline on it, embedded in it just from your work, on some kind of hot surface or hot body, right? You never did that before.
No.
So you don't know what would have transferred from your clothes to any clothes on Todd Stermer, right?
No, I don't.
Oh. Linda was out of her van when you were coming toward her. I think, did you say 40 yards away?
I would think 40s, I mean, that's ballpark, give or take.
I just want to make sure we're clear. When she pointed out, there's Todd, how far were you from her?
20 yards, 25 yards at that point.
Okay.
She had made up the distance from the van to me at that point.
Right. I just wanted to be clear. She wasn't just stepping out of her van going, there's Todd.
No.
She previously knew where Todd was. It was, she's the distance from you. You're 20 some yards away and she points, there's Todd.
Yes.
Like a discovery. True?
She said, there's Todd.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
No, Your Honor.
Jury, any questions of him? No question? Oh, I've got one hand going up.
I think the reason why they keep asking people about what she was wearing, specifically if she had shoes on, is because I could be wrong, but I think it's because if she had set fire and knew she had to run out of the house, then she would have shoes on. Because it was cold and possibly snowing, or at least wet slushiness on the ground from a previous snow. That's very possible. Oh, dude, don't yawn. Oh, he made me yawn. Don't do that. I don't know why they keep asking people if they were down at Todd's feet, though. Do they think he only had gasoline on his feet? That question stumps me. I don't know why that question. This is true. Or it said it and wanted it to look like it was a spontaneous, I got to get out of the house because the house is on fire really quick.
I have some questions from the jury, okay? Sir, what time did you arrive at the Stermer residence?
From some testimony that I gave, we leave our house at 3:30 to go bowling. It's in Paw, so it would have been, 3:30 to 3:45.
Okay. How long were you on the scene?
Till late into the evening. I don't remember how exactly long, but quite a few hours.
Did fire trucks arrive with sirens at the time of the recorded call to 911?
At one point they did. I don't remember when they showed up exactly, but there was definitely fire trucks on scene.
Okay. At the time of the 911 call, or?
At the 911 call, there was just Connie, Linda, and I.
Okay. Did you follow the same route behind the house as Linda Stermer when you arrived?
No, I kept parked on the top side of the house, the east side of the house.
Were the clothes well saturated and or soiled that you placed on Todd?
No.
Yeah, I may have asked you this one already, but let me know if I did. If Linda said he's right there as you were walking up to her, was it on your first initial trip around the house?
No, it wasn't.
Greg, Your Honor, can I get that question asked again?
If Linda said he's right there as you were walking up to her, Was it on your first initial trip around the house?
It was not.
Okay. Thank you. Council, any questions briefly in light of those questions and answers?
I don't have any,
Just a few. If the 911 call was 3:31, which we've heard, you with me?
Yes.
3:31 in the afternoon. You had been on the scene for at least a few minutes. You went down, remember, down to try to find Linda, find out what's going on, then you ran up.
I'm going to object. I think we need to structure this more as a question. I feel like council is actually testifying.
I'm laying the background of what he testified.
Okay. Just ask the question then.
You had been on scene for a few minutes, right?
When?
By the time the 911 call was made, because you had to go down, all right? And there were no fire, you were the ones who called 911, as far as you know.
Correct.
All right.
Just saying this off memory, prior testimony, I is better served.
Your clothes may not have been saturated with fuel, but just in normal course of what you do, fuel gets on your clothes, right?
Could have. I'm not saying there was fuel on those clothes, but if there was, it wouldn't be uncommon.
It certainly wouldn't surprise you.
It wouldn't surprise me.
When you're in the course of your work, you're also laying tools on things, and sometimes maybe chainsaws and other things can get on your clothes.
Your Honor, I would ask that these be rephrased in terms of questions.
It's getting cumulative because it was already covered in cross,
One
but
more
I'll let you
question,
ask
Your
one more
Honor.
question.
Thank you. Tools like chainsaws could get on your clothes, and they have fuel in them.
They could have. I don't know if they were back there, but they could have.
And that wouldn't be unusual.
It wouldn't be unusual.
Thank you.
Outside of you,
But again, you would have smelt it inside of your cab as you were going bowling that day.
Correct.
Thank you. No further questions.
Jury, any other questions? Nope. Is he excused from his subpoena?
I would ask that you please be excused from subpoena.
Excused from subpoena? Yep.
Be
Thank you.
excused.
Thank you, sir. You're all done. You're excused from subpoena. Jury, I'm going to let you go for the night. Sorry about going late, but we wanted to get this witness done for you. So I'll have you, oh, you have a question of this witness? Oh, do you have a question? Is it about the case, sir? Don't tell me what it is, but is it about the case itself and the evidence?
If you read it, I think you'll understand. It's not something that needs to be addressed now.
Okay. I'll look at it at another time then? Is it, okay? Okay. We'll retrieve it, but I'll show it to the attorneys too, and we'll maybe respond tomorrow for you, okay? I'll have you report back to the jury room at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Please, please, please remember the rules. No social media, no watching the news, no discussing the case with anybody else, no posts of the case, okay? We'll see you in the morning. Thank you.
I have seen jury questions asked. They allow it in some states. The first time I ever saw it was in the Letitia Staup trial. That was in Colorado. Trying to think what other states. I know I've seen them in other states. I just can't think of any right now. but there are several states. I didn't realize Michigan was one of them, though. It is kind of weird, but I do like it because, like Judy said earlier, it does let you see. Oh, really? I didn't think we did that. Oh, okay. Well, I guess they're not gonna. I was waiting to see if they were gonna argue anything in front of the judge. I guess they don't have anything. Okay. Um. Really? I guess maybe because that was a civil case and not a criminal case. Because I didn't think we did that in Florida. I can't. I know I've seen Letitia Stout in Colorado was the first one that I ever saw, but I know that there's been more that I've seen since then. I just can't remember what states they were. Oh, it's at the judge's discretion? Okay. Well. But I think it's a good idea because then you can, well, for the attorneys, because then they can kind of gauge what the jury is thinking and maybe tweak their questions a little bit. Because a lot of times it feels like, I mean, because we're kind of like the jury. I mean, we know more than the jury does, but a lot of times it feels like the attorneys hammer in on one thing, and as jurors, we're like, okay, move on, we got it, and so I think by the questions that they ask, that the attorneys can use that to like tweak their presentation a little bit, like, okay, well, they got that, or they're not concerned with that. Or I about died when one of the jurors asked about the snow. No, we don't want to talk about the weather. No. Okay, guys, so yay, we have a new trial. I just hope that that it's over before Karen Reed starts. But Judy and I were talking about something very interesting. And I'm not a lawyer, guys, so I don't know exactly what it means. Judy and I are suspicious. So we know that Canoni denied the motion to dismiss counts 1 and 3. We knew that Canoni was not going to allow the motion to dismiss. But, they had to try it. Well, it has gone to the appeals court, and Brennan did not send an answer to the motion to the appeals court. Therefore, he cannot argue in front of the appeals court the motion to not dismiss. And usually, if the other side isn't showing up to respond and argue and do their part, then that motion usually automatically gets granted. Now, I don't know about appeals court, because I've not seen a lot of appeals. When we did the Karen Reed, the first Supreme Court appeal thingy that they did, I mean, what are they on now? Like their third go at it? I don't know. I've lost track. But the one, the first one we watched was the first one I'd ever seen, where the one side got up and argued this, like, what was it? Like 5-6 judges. The defense got up and argued, and then the prosecution got up and argued. And so now, no one's arguing for the prosecution. So I don't know what that means. And I don't know if the prosecution has something up their sleeve, or they just didn't bother because see, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But does that mean that she's automatically going to win the appeal and they're going to drop counts 1 and 3? Like, why is the Commonwealth just going to let that happen by not responding to this appeal? I don't understand. I feel like I so distrust the DA's office right now that it feels like they're setting a trap. I don't trust them. I don't understand why they didn't reply. So we're just going to have to sit on that and wait and see what happens, because that just seems hinky to me, because I don't trust them at all. So, okay, guys. Well, he's still on the witness list. They still have to call him because he still was the lead detective. Or is he considered a detective? Is he a detective? See, I get confused because in Florida, state troopers are not detectives. They're highway. They're strictly highway. Because my dad was a state trooper. So I get confused. Was he the lead detective? Because we have FDLE in Florida. They're the state police. The state troopers are traffic. So I get confused when state troopers are investigating murders and stuff. It confuses me. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, guys, I will be back in the morning at 8 with Phil Spector, and we'll start with this again at 9:30. And thank you guys for coming out. It will. It absolutely will. But what choice do they have? He was the lead investigator. So, bye, guys. I love y'all. I'll see you in the morning. Bye.